Welcome back, everyone, to Raised by Spoilers, the show where we watch and unpack cult movies, some of them good, most of them bad. Tonight's episode, I want to slow down just a little bit. Happy New Year, everyone. It's January.
Happy New Year.
I hope
2024.
It's 2024. We're here.
Still looking festive.
I mean, in a year of 2023 where we had absolute bangers of movies, juggernauts, and some Godzillas even.
Yeah.
It was a good time. We'll get back to the end of that little segment at the end of the episode once we kind of unpack and see really kind of if there was anything new we kind of watched, but I don't want to get too much because that's not what the show's about. Tonight, I am surrounded around the regular suspects, the usuals themselves, everybody's goth mommy, the feminist warlord, Nintendo geek.
What the hell was that? Oh no, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Coming
Out of the gate,
strong.
we are hot, we are ready.
Oh, I'm just so burnt out from Christmas.
It's been a holiday. You know him. I know him. The man who hates practically everything. Plebeian Adam.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Wait, what the hell was that?
I can't live that one down.
I had a different intro planned, and I went, oh, we're pivoting. We're changing.
That's how it is.
Oh my god. Yep.
Tonight we watched 1982's The Thing, or as it's regularly titled, John Carpenter's The Thing. I want to start off with a quote real quick before we actually get into everyone's thoughts and then the history and the doobly-doo and all of the pricing and whatnot. But I take every failure hard. The one I took hardest was The Thing. My career would have been different. If it hadn't been a big hit, the movie was hated. Even the science fiction fans, they thought I had betrayed them, broken some sort of trust. Even the original movie director distanced himself from me after the film came out. The Thing, not necessarily flopped, but wasn't very good in the eyes of it. Directed by John Carpenter, with the screenplay by Bill Lancaster, based on the short story titled Who Goes There? By John W. Campbell in 1938. A reimagining of the original film from 1951 titled The Thing from Another World, released upon the world on June 25th, 1982, with a runtime of an hour and 34 minutes in some theaters. This movie...
Oh, it was a partial release.
This movie...
Or limited release, they call it. Sorry.
This movie, I had it and I lost it, and I had it I had a link that was going to bring.
Oh, you're losing it.
I believe box office international, Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, United Kingdom, United States, and Canada. So not even like a worldwide one.
China wasn't in that list, was it?
China was not.
Huh.
I don't know why necessarily, but the 11th. So it was released in Australia in November, like months later.
That makes
a lot of these, like, it
Should've been in the
came
winter.
out, and even then, for Australia, it only made $1,000.
What?
1,000?
Yeah, it was shown in one theater.
I mean, November, that would have been their summer as well. So, like,
Right.
what?
Oh, right. That's right. Australia, summers is in November.
Yeah,
Right.
it's opposite.
You're right.
Right.
Shit.
Yep.
What a dumb choice. First of all, it was
Yeah.
a dumb choice to put out in the summer. It
The
should have been a
actual game.
So
winter.
it's a summer
release.
worldwide.
Yeah, United Kingdom.
Release.
United Kingdom, it was showed in 144. New Zealand, and granted, this is not taking in like later on the Thing becoming the cult hit that it's grown into
Sure.
be, and then movie nights and cinemas showing it like midnight.
This is
and
initial
stuff.
only.
This is just like, hey, we're gonna, like Godzilla -1, you're gonna see it one day, and we're gonna do one screening, and it's fucking gone.
Yeah.
And if you hate it, you hate it. And this movie kind of flopped, but it's a sci-fi classic, so we can bring it in to try to get the 2080 readers and these comic nerds in.
Well, if that's the case, no wonder it did better once it released onto VHS, because people were like, wait, I've seen this movie, and I haven't seen it for like 15 years. I'm going to go buy that.
Now, this does lead me to an interesting question. Oh, you got more.
Give me just a second.
Okay.
Give me just a second. With a budget of $15 million and a box office of $19.6 million with its North American release. So skewed, and we'll play with it real quick. In 1982, a budget of $15 million would have been equivalent to $45.5 million in 2022.
Okay.
for the budget. In 82, the box office gross of 19.6 million would have been equivalent to about 60 million.
Okay.
For-
so
for
so 20
inflation.
mil.
Yeah,
But that's not a lot in movies.
it's not. But it did. It's
not negative.
realistically, it made okay money back.
But usually those
in today's standards.
if there's one thing I've learned is usually those numbers don't include like marketing and stuff because they're not usually.
Yeah.
It's usually just what it costs to make the movie, not what it costs to market the movie. So it's probably still a loss.
Yeah.
It probably still took a loss or close to it.
The thing would later find fame and cult viewings through VHS and TV showings. The movie itself is starring Kurt Russell and Keith David. Both actors would later show up in other works by John Carpenter.
Yep.
And before I throw it back to you guys, The Thing is the first installment in John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, in which case it is about cosmic or loss of self horror.
Okay.
It is The Thing. It is then followed by Prince of Darkness and then In the Mouth of Madness. None of these movies are necessarily connected by plot, cast, or crew, but Carpenter himself grew up reading H.P. Lovecraft, i.e. H.P. Lovecraft's a huge piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. He's touched a lot of media and inspired a lot of our famous directors that we all love today.
I don't
like
know if
John
there's
Carpenter
people I
and
could have such a
blah,
love-hate
blah, blah, blah,
relationship
blah, blah,
with.
blah, blah. But,
Okay.
pushing forward just this cosmic entity of the unknown and terrors.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the Cornetto trilogy type of thing where
100%.
yeah.
100%. The Thing is that in the Mountains of Madness, sort of cosmic terror, we find something in the ice. Prince of Darkness, I believe, is the plot of the devil is a liquid or liquefied.
The fuck?
Like the angel Lucifer fell to earth.
Yeah.
And liquefied and is in like this jar, and it's trying to break out. We're
Someone
gonna
released it.
watch them, but
Yeah,
apparently
that sounds
fairly wild.
interesting.
Sam Neill is in The Mouth of Madness, which I believe is about an author who is writing it sounds almost like a Garth Marenghi skit, but like the cosmic horrors of him writing stuff and it coming true.
Okay. This is Jurassic Park Sam Neill, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting. He could play that really well. That sounds like a very interesting
He has
movie.
a lot of fun with a lot of the stuff.
Okay, speaking of like how
The Thing.
Yeah, John Carpenter and does all these cool cosmic horror things. Does it make you feel like maybe this movie was set up to fail because of A, lack of marketing, B, they put it out in the wrong time of year, they kind of did it limited release, like this tried to fail, it sounds like.
I think it's saying mostly that people weren't expecting it to be so gory. And it also came out 2 weeks after E.T.
We had Blade Runner, we had E.T., we had Firefox, Rocky 3, Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, Poltergeist, which was still really gory,
came out
and
the
by the
same-
guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, who also was supposed to direct this movie, but he was working on Poltergeist at the time. The Thing, Megaforce, apparently Bambi was being reshowed at the same sort of time as well, so it just wasn't for everybody.
Well, people also came out the same day as Blade Runner. But
which also bombed.
Yeah. I think people were expecting more of like it's an alien movie, because before this you had Aliens,
Yeah.
the horror movie, but then it was like, okay, people had kind of got over that. This is a few years later. So people went to go see E.T., and it's like, oh, it's a nice alien with a nice ending. Oh, look how much he loves the little boy. And then this is literally like, I'm going to destroy you from the inside out.
It sounds like there's a lot of, or at least a few cult movies that came out at that, that same junction. Is there a scenario where this was almost, do you think this was a mistake by a bunch of different producers, or do you think this was sort of just throw everything at that time period? I don't know why someone would do that.
It might have just been the right movie, wrong time.
I think they had the rights to it, and for the most part, they were workshopping it around before Carpenter was even approached. With the success of Alien and Ridley Scott, everybody wanted sort of a scary sci-fi thriller.
Got it.
Right? 79, 82, a couple of years later, everyone's chasing.
So we don't think it was
point.
purposefully sabotaged. We think it was just coincidental, terrible timing.
I think so. I think the other thing too is they didn't necessarily know how to market it. Yeah. Original concept and putting the movie together, they wanted to shoot this whole thing in black and white.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, they're remaking a movie from the 50s. Well, not
Sorry, I just
remaking.
caught that. They wanted to film it in black and white.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they wanted it to
that
be
would
like
be
a
great.
sci-fi noir thriller.
Yeah.
So back
With
in
the snow and the blood.
That's
and
Yeah.
cool, but no.
Yeah.
if you look at the
Not his
timing
thing.
of it, these types of B movies that it's based off of, well, not based off of, but the last movie rendition was 1950s. So when it came out in the 80s, 30 years ago was boring, and that was what your grandpa and your mom watched, right? So like it was kind of, this is like the beginning of it trying to get back into that B movie, like just like, you know, alien horror. So in the equivalent, I guess it would be like us trying to watch something from the 1990s, and it's like, well, that's kind of old school. I don't really know if I want to go do that. And it took a while to get the rights. They couldn't figure out who had the rights.
True. And also at the point, they were workshopping it around to John Landis, who I don't necessarily think he had done American Werewolf yet. There was a bunch of other directors. There was a bunch of other directors who kind of fell through until the success of Halloween, showing that Carpenter could work on a limited budget and still drive home suspense and horror. Even though there's not a lot of blood and gore in the first Halloween movie. No. It's just more the fear of leaving did I leave the door locked?
Which I think is
Are
John
the kids
Carpenter's.
okay?
I think The Thing proved to me that that's John Carpenter's power. Is not the blood and gore. It's not necessarily the jump scare, because I don't remember the first Friday Night, but this one wasn't about jump scares. Right. And so his is about the buildup of tension, this slowly eking up, and then a release. Yeah, it's paranoia. It's this sense. Yeah, the paranoia. Did I leave the door locked? Did I? You know what I mean? Like, did I lock the window? You know what I mean? Oh, is there something near here? What's that shadow? Right. And sometimes it's nothing. But when he does reveal it, it's usually not a jump scare. It's usually like you're almost relieved. Right. When the thing happens. Right. The thing that you've been building up to. Right. Which is interesting.
Yeah. I also feel like they didn't necessarily know how to market this fucking movie. Like, the biggest thing was...
That's what you were saying.
When reading into it, and to answer some of your questions, reading in and finding information, the studios were workshopping and flying out footage back from Alaska to say, okay, the investors want to know, what the fuck are you making? Because we have unfinished practical effects. We have scenes that were cut. We have outtakes that just weren't used. And they were edited together with any sort of music to just kind of show, I think it was 18 minutes of the film that actually isn't the movie. And that's what they were given to do a trailer for. Oh. So there was nothing really to go off of also like, hey, this movie's got to get done. We need anything you fucking have. And you're also going to go and review all of it, clip it, cut it. And this is the trailer that we're going to show audiences, also the investors, also like, if not, don't come back from Alaska kind of thing.
Yeah, one thing I had heard was that apparently...
One thing?
Yeah, many of the things. One of the things I heard about this movie was, and I don't remember where I heard it, there was some type of snowstorm or an event that stopped them from filming for a long time, which supposedly is what caused all of, like, you know, there's all these little these perfections of details in the movie, in the scene, you know, right, one jacket little off the thing, all these little details. The reason we got those details was because of this freeze in the production. They were given time to think about that, and they had nothing better to do. They rewrote it, you know, like, you know, cleaned up the writing. They cleaned up the little details. And as far as I'm aware, that was a huge factor. And that's probably also what gave them the problem with the marketing, because they weren't handing back film. Right. Because they had nothing, because there is a snowstorm in Alaska.
Well, you said at one point the truck almost went off
when
they were driving up filming equipment.
Whoa. Yeah, they were being transported up to the filming location, I think, when they were in British Columbia. And they were all on a bus. And at night, it was a snowstorm, and the bus driver was pretty much blind. Oh, God. And they were driving on like a mountain road where half the road didn't have a rail.
Ice road truckers.
So he lost control of the bus with everybody on it, and they obviously didn't fall down a mountainside in the middle of the night, but they almost did.
That is
the whole
terrifying.
Crew and cast could have just been like down the side of a mountain.
They could have, was it AC/DC'd themselves?
Yeah.
Because I think AC/DC lost their main singer due to a bus accident.
A lot of like even
think so, yeah.
there's a bunch of bands that has happened, and it's like, oh my god.
Oh, when you're on the road all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that I'm glad it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
this movie wouldn't have been made, and
And
obviously
Russell
people would
Crowe
have.
and everybody else would have been like, bye.
Not Russell Crowe, Russell.
Or not Russell Crowe, sorry, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
And we would have never got the diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley.
Well,
would've
for
never-
Bradley, then.
Terrifying in this
No,
movie.
he would have never got diabetes.
That's true.
That's true. That's
That
true.
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, friends, viewers, listeners, readers, let's go around the table real quick. What did everybody think of The Thing? I mean, we've been kind of chit-chatting. We've thrown a little bit of the history at everybody back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, you've never seen this movie.
No,
Okay.
this is my first time.
All right.
It was weird that it was one of those things where everyone I know was like, "You need to watch this movie," and it's just never happened.
This is up there with like Conan. This is up there. Not Conan, sorry. This is up there with like Blade Runner, Alien 1, A Star War.
Yeah,
And then I want to say, I don't want to say Lynch's Dune because that's almost too obscure, but also a big movie in the 80s to come out.
Yeah.
But this is up there with one of those like quintessential, these are the horror movies or these are the big science fiction movies that are on everyone's like top 10 list kind of thing. So it is odd that you haven't seen it.
it is really, really odd considering, to get to what I thought of this, considering I liked it so much.
Yeah.
This to me had all of the, I think I discussed in the Evil Dead episode that I don't really like horror for the most part, but it's very clear that I like suspense and mystery.
Right.
Which is its own version of horror if you look at it in a certain way. I don't
Yeah.
usually like that. What'd you call it? Not the chop. Oh, what do they call it? The chopper one, like the
Slashers.
Slashers.
So there's
That tells
you've got folk horror.
Why couldn't
and
I remember that?
No. Just like rock and roll or any even rap or country music, there is a variety. You can't. It's not just a movie. It's not just food. There is a variety of tastes and settings.
And there's
There's
genres within subgenres within
exactly
subgenres.
metal to heavy
Yeah.
metal to black metal. So you've
Yep.
got your slashers. You've got your creature features, which is more of like your Draculas and your creatures from the Black Lagoon. You've got your jump scares, your modern stuff where it's like found footage, Blair
Yeah.
Witch and whatnot. And then you've got this technically follows under suspense creature feature.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
But I think it's got this mystery with suspense that I really, really enjoyed. Where I can't remember if there was a jump scare. I don't remember it, which tells me how unimportant the jump scare was. I mean, obviously, there's like the whole hands and the chest scene, which kind of was a jump scare.
You're not expecting it.
You're not expecting
Yeah,
it,
and the blood test because it happens so
but
suddenly.
you were expecting it. That was
Right.
suspense
It's
building
not
up.
necessarily a boo. It's like pressure.
Yeah,
Like you said,
it's
it's
a boiling
pressure.
pot.
Right.
That's building up and building up. It's not sudden out of
Which
nowhere.
makes the
Right.
soundtrack like work so well on this. With
Well, that's the heavy
the
synth, right?
synth and like just everything.
Absolutely.
It is funny you say you don't like horror, considering the last 3 out of 4 movies we've done have been horror movies.
Guys, the thing is you either get into really, really, really bad science fiction or you get into action or you get into horror.
Yeah.
Cult is very limited. There's not a lot of people who like dig into rom-com movies that are like, oh yeah, this is a cult classic.
You don't see those
Nobody watches like The Runaway Bride every year.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's people out there who do. Mean Girls, there's comedy cults, and there's this large, cheaper section of movies that are made that don't become cult movies.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and it feels like a tax write-off, or it feels like you're throwing $1 million to an actor who needs work,
Yep.
Yeah,
or it's an actor writing for the first
and
time,
it's
or
either
something like
Drew
that.
Barrymore, Kirsten Dunst.
A lot of those Adam
in
Sandler
those-
movies,
in
Yeah,
those
yeah.
times, yeah.
Yeah.
right? I
Those
mean, there's
are
some
ones-
good ones. 50 First Dates.
It's
banger.
just so weird. Yeah, you're right. Because as we're looking into what our movies are going to be for next month,
Yeah.
which is February,
or just the year.
it's just the year. It's really difficult to find the rom-com.
Oh, we're
cults.
really trying to narrow down which one to make for the month of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to that, but I think this one had just the right amount of mystery and human suspense. The story, to me, yes, it was a creature feature,
Yeah.
but it wasn't about the creature and discovering the creature. It was about the humans.
Right.
And kind of almost discovering how they treat a lack of trust and all of these kind of logical problems, which was just brilliant to me. I enjoyed the shit out of that.
It also shines a light on a way of cabin fever,
Yeah.
paranoia, just the idea of coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like we all joked the first time we saw it, where it's like, this is just like when COVID first come out and nobody fucking like trusts anybody. And there's this whole weird hyperbolic.
Do you have the thing?
Do you have the thing?
Yeah.
Did you wash your hands? You wearing a mask? Like, don't touch me. It's just so interesting on when you boil everything down, because it's not really about the people, because we don't know anything really about the people. And you're assuming educated men. They're scientists. They're up there doing science stuff. They're Mr. Science Man.
Yeah.
For them to literally come up with like
They were
the blood
chosen.
test and stuff, they're like, no, give me like 15 minutes. I'll be back. I'm gonna go put my coat on and sit in the lab and then just punch up something that would normally.
Yeah.
Let's do the science for it, and then that immediately gets thrown out the window because the tension and panic and fear of the unknown.
Which is very human.
Yeah.
I
Oh
think.
yeah, absolutely.
To be like, oh yeah, I'd totally be logical in that situation. I was not
You were
logical
not.
in that situation.
But that also shines back on the light of the horror movie tropes. That also kind of, you sit and go, well, I just wouldn't go in the basement. Yeah, but the lights are off and you don't know that there's a killer out there.
Yeah.
Our character doesn't know that the neighbors on all three sides of her are dead.
Yes.
She can yell as loud as she wants. No one's going to hear her.
Yeah.
So the lights just tripped. She's just going to go downstairs and fix the breaker.
Yep.
Not the suspense that we as the audience are consuming.
She's not
and
fearing
slowly-
a killer. She's fearing the dark, like any of us are tripping on a staircase.
Right. And that's just the sway of it.
And I think that's what I really enjoyed about this movie was I did not feel like I was waiting for them to die. I was waiting for them to be revealed, because once they get revealed, the jig is up. That was the easy part.
Yeah.
That was the
Right.
not scary part, or the not suspenseful part. Once the monster was out, it was the in-between moments that I really loved.
Yeah, he does such an amazing job. Amanda, you've seen this movie 100 times. What do you think about the thing?
I've seen it a handful of times.
Surface area thoughts.
Much like most of these movies, I did enjoy it.
Okay.
After seeing it, I hadn't seen it in a while. I tend to watch this movie like every maybe 5 years
Sure.
or so, just when it comes on, or we're like, oh, just throw it on. So I always forget the middle part.
Yeah.
Like, I remember how it opens and I remember the ending, but I always forget the middle, just because everything, much like Evil Dead, everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
It's very hectic.
Yeah, like once they start boarding everything up and they start grouping together and they start people I have a hard time with this movie only because the characters, I have a hard time telling them apart
Yeah.
or keeping track of who is who, especially when the goggles and the coats come on.
Sure.
So even rewatching it every time, I never know who is who and who's infected. It's like a surprise every time I watch
Who's
it.
patient zero, even?
Yeah.
Who's patient zero? Because I
Who's who?
remember the later half of the movie, once, you get down to your core, 5 people, it's like, oh, okay, I understand who people are. But in the beginning, it's like there's 10 characters.
That's actually, I think that's a very interesting statement to make.
And they don't have a few of them have personalities, but the others are just like, who is that?
There's actually, I think it's something, I think it's a very interesting statement, just because you're right. Once you got down to the last 3 people,
Right.
you knew exactly who each of those 3 people
Yeah.
were.
Right.
It was the early 3-ish that you're they kind of hid in the background, which at the beginning made sense because the monster hid among them.
Yeah, it
But-
wasn't trying to lay low. So you're like, okay, the people in the back, those tend to be the infected,
Yes.
just with the camera tricks and all that. But
Right.
then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that person that was hiding in the back, they actually weren't infected. So it keeps you guessing.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's very interesting that I never noticed that, because I do hate the fact that there are a few characters I just don't know their names. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But then once you get to the last 3, I never really noticed that once you got to the last 3, I could pretty much name them.
Yeah, because it's the people with the easier names to remember.
It is.
That's
It's
true.
not the nickname. It's not the.
It's nicknames, last names, and then full names. And it's like the full name people tend to, like in this movie, the people with their full name died early.
Yeah.
And then it was left just nickname people pretty much. But
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what?
Yeah.
It's funny that if you look at the movie, when I was while watching it, I didn't notice that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you just said that I went, oh crap, that's a through line.
Hang on a second. You mean to tell me you don't know McCready, the helicopter pilot, Childs, the chef and mechanic, Dr. Blair, senior biologist, Windows, the radio operator, Palmer, the assistant mechanic, George Bennings, the meteorologist, Dr. Cooper, the physician,
Copper.
Copper, I apologize, Dr. Copper, the physician, Nulls, the cook. M.T. Gary, station manager.
Oh,
Fletch,
Gary was a cop.
assistant biologist. Vance Norris, the geologist. Clark,
Yeah,
the dog
see?
handler.
Okay, there's 3 of those that I remember.
And
Right.
The dog,
Which one?
The dog's name is Jed
Okay.
in real life, so yeah.
It's-
But yeah, it's just there's so many, and like not to be a thing, but like
Not to be thing.
two
Not
of
to
the
be the thing.
guys have curly hair.
Yeah.
The other 2 older guys look identical to each other, and it's like who is who? And at least with Alien, they wore their name on their jackets. Their names are on the back, and they never show them.
Yeah.
That's true. I think the other problem was there, and we mentioned it while watching it, which was there was a lot of scenes with them outside, and they were
Yeah.
all just wearing similar parkas
Parkas.
with goggles on, and so all you see is maybe their mouths at most.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, Kate, listen, I get it. That's Keith David. I can tell that guy. I can tell McCready
Creedy?
because he's got the funny hat. He's always got the funny hat. And the rest of them
No,
all
you
look
can
alike.
tell McCready because he only wears a hoodie.
He only wears a hoodie.
He's wearing a hoodie,
God damn.
and everyone else is like geared up because it's -50.
Yeah,
It's -40.
it's wild.
But there's just there's so many characters, but by the middle, it is good. Like once the plot gets going, it's like okay, here we go.
yeah, I don't mind.
I really like it.
Oh, they actually have a layout of the base.
Oh, dude, there's Wikipedias for the thing. You got to remember, there's board games. We did a
Well,
sequel,
Among
which we'll get
Us
into.
is pretty much the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Not the space one. The space one is the first one. I think the second level in Among Us when they actually did a big like where they're like, yeah, we're the thing. Oops.
Oops.
The Thing, Among Us, the video game that was remade.
There's
Or not
board
remade,
games
The board game by Mondo,
We played it.
Outpost 39.
Oh, did you?
where we had to get off the ship. Yeah.
No, we've never.
Oh.
We've never played
Oh, I thought
Outpost
we did.
31. Carrion by Digital Devolver. You play
The
as
video game?
as the creature.
I've got it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. That is
great.
the thing. Yeah. You especially because you start in the Arctic
yeah.
and you're blasting your way around. But yeah. Anyway,
So this helps now seeing the layout of everything and the people because we have the cast on one side of the TV and then the layout. So it's like, oh, okay,
You know what's funny is
so you like the movie?
I did.
Cool.
I can go back and rewatch
Sorry.
it. Yes.
Cool.
Over and over and over again. I
Beautiful.
love it.
We're gonna get into the doobly doos in a second.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
for sure. No, I was just going to say that this is actually very interesting to see this map now. I think it's something everyone should look at almost before they watch the movie, because this actually makes a whole lot of sense now.
So
I lost track a lot.
originally,
Mm-hmm.
there was a special edition that when you opened it up, you had to pull. The vinyl is the same sort of way, but you pull apart the ice as the plastic casing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is the contorted double faces of the creature.
Yep, the
And then you
initial.
open it up, and that's when you had like the original fold-out poster with the guy in the parka and the light blasting out of his face because
Yeah.
you're not supposed to know what the hell that thing is. And the other side of it was the map. The other side of it was photographs of like the crew day one, the crew day like what they were actually like researching up there
Yeah,
kind of shit.
okay.
And that was just kind of put together as like Blu-ray collector's edition, I think in 2008, 2010 when it originally first came
That's
out.
really cool.
Kind of thing. Yeah, it's one of those
Fuck,
ones-
I wish I had that.
Yeah, man. It's it's like the Conan or it's like the Alien box set. Where
Yeah.
you're like, fuck, this is great. But they did that for the thing. They went in, they cleaned it up a little bit, they darkened some of the blues, they went in and cleaned it up almost like how Lucas redid the sound and stuff. They just touched it up for the 4K release or the Blu-ray release, and you get these pieces.
That's
So-
really cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
So
I
the
like that.
map, there's A through Z, and it has the complete plot in order of what happens in each room.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
This makes so much more sense now.
Wow.
Oh my God, guys.
The fact that this movie has such like it is a cult following.
Oh, it's deep.
This is
It's
quintessential cult movie.
Yeah, it's deep.
Because we've got wikis like this where they're bringing up maps. Who
Yeah,
was
you
the first
kinda
infected?
need
Who did
that.
this? And it's that crazy
You
man
know
on the
what they
board.
need?
Yeah.
Remember pop-up video?
Oh yeah, pop up video.
Well,
Maybe-
Amazon does a little bit of that
Yeah,
too.
if you watch this on Prime, I'm sure you can put up like the pop-ups of like, oh, this is when this happens, and oh, keep an eye on this character as this happens.
I don't know if the thing is on Amazon Prime.
I don't know
No.
either.
But if this is close enough to like a pop-up video.
That's pretty
situation.
cool. I don't think you should do it on your first watch.
go
through.
No,
in.
go in
Do it on
blind,
your second
like,
one,
We are
'cause-
going to spoil like the entire plot, so if you haven't seen it, please
Go
go
watch
watch,
it first.
and then come back.
Agreed.
Because we haven't even talked about anything to do with the
We haven't even talked about anything to do with anything.
Oh.
Rob Bottin did RoboCop Total Recall. He was responsible for the thing itself.
What do you mean?
Like
Oh,
the creature
He was
effects.
The creature effects. We're going up. Yeah.
Plots, props, special effects. You know the show, Adam.
All
right.
It's like I haven't done this before.
Keep that train on the track, folks. Rob Bottin helped design the RoboCop outfit. Originally, RoboCop was supposed to look like Judge Dredd, but we can't get into that because of copyright. But he also worked on Total Recall and a bunch of other films. He had double pneumonia at one point. He was taking on too much of the work, and he got very, very sick on the production of this movie.
He almost died
Oh, God.
from exhaustion.
But
Yeah, because he worked for like 7 days a week for like a year straight.
Normally, I'd sit here and be like, that's hard work. That's all the stuff. But screw that. That's a little too far.
Stan Winston, the legend. Both of these guys are legends. These are huge, huge FX artists in the day, especially for practical stuff. Stan Winston, Terminator, Jurassic Park, Aliens, the list goes on. This man's touched it. Predator, I'm pretty sure he designed most of all of these creatures we have grown up to love and watch. He did the dogs in the dog transformation scene because Bolton was out. The way they had done that is it is arm puppets, and they had
People underneath the floor or something.
shot it in reverse. So
to make it look
so
wrong.
as it's like exploding or changing, it's the other way. So it's already out, and then they pull it all back together, kind of thing.
That makes sense.
I almost feel like that would be harder to do.
I think it's just for the way the tentacles and stuff move.
And when you play anything in reverse, it looks more like unnatural.
That's what I figured. That was the original intent, was to make it seem.
So a lot of it's puppets or stop motion.
Well, yeah, we knew that.
When the dog flowers,
Right.
We know that.
Right, we're on a podcast, right?
Smart ass.
When the one dog is all out, like a demigorgon, that's like all 12 dog tongues are like the petals.
Honestly,
of that flower.
Yeah, it scoots up the
it's
skull.
Like,
all I can think about that from now is I think it's like Pan's Labyrinth or Hellboy or something with the hands.
That is pants.
Oh, yeah.
Pants with the hands.
Pants.
Yeah.
Also, he wanted to remain uncredited because he wanted to put all the credit onto
Rob.
Bottin.
Yeah.
But then he does have a special thanks in the credits.
Yeah, they had to bring him in. He was
they
so
literally
sick.
just put thanks Rob because he didn't want like an official credit.
Because he just came in to help out a friend type of
Because
thing.
he was already so established, and this guy was still.
Yeah, and he's
up.
like, hey, this guy's awesome. I don't want to take
Right.
anything away from
Yeah.
him. Because if they hear his name, they won't associate him.
Right. Oh, Stan Winston and this guy worked underneath him. And
Yeah,
it's like,
or
no.
thanks, Stan,
He
yeah.
did it himself. He created it.
Which, to be fair, I think it still got leveled off because every time I hear about this movie and the creature effects, I hear about Stan Winston. I don't hear about
that's
the
why
other
he
guy.
But
didn't
it's
want
Rob.
it. Yeah.
Bottin.
See, that's the problem is I always hear about Stan Winston when
Yeah.
he comes out of this movie, not Rob.
Yeah.
And so he probably had a very legitimate fear of that.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's arguably some of the best creature design or practical effects that I've ever seen in a movie going forward. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're amazing. The way
so
just
good.
these creatures, like the elongated faces, and just the horror of it is awful and frankly undescribable to an extent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
It's a
It's-
microwave human being
it's-
pulled apart and then stretched
It's
back
nice
together.
because it is different from like Geiger.
Oh,
Horror,
for sure.
Like alien horror, where it's
It-
more
yeah.
like alien.
it's a lot less sexual.
It's more organic.
Yes and no.
I guess.
Geiger is all dicks. It's a lot of
It's
dicks
very
in his work.
machine though. It's like all machine
True.
and like cold and like this is like just like red organic.
That's true.
things.
I think what's interesting about this one is they take the human body outside of the normal construct. Because a great example of that, an easy one to describe, although if you look at the movie, you'll see more of undescribable versions, which is where like when the head comes off, instead of the head righting itself and growing legs, it unrights itself and goes upside down and
doesn't
grows the legs.
understand.
And because it doesn't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what's upwards. It grows new stalks of eyes instead of using the existing eyes. And to me, that's a creator that is going, no. This thinking about the alien, not giving a crap what's up or
They're
down.
not going to understand the full biology of what a human would do.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I want to just shout out quick because you said sexually or Giger and stuff like that. And I just wanted to double check quick because there's a movie that was filmed in 1989 and apparently was released in 92 called Society, in which case a bunch of rich people are sort of like aliens, and I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a gruesome cult of social elites, and there's a scene near the end of it where they're all sort of having an orgy walk with me on this one, folks.
Okay.
And as they're
Put my keys in the bowl.
Yep. As they're having this orgy, they continue to sort of just morph into each other as they become this like hive mind colony of flesh.
What?
That's awesome.
And it reminds me a lot like when they first find the body in The Thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just a big, gruesome, almost like inside of just multiple faces and body parts and all sorts of just
That.
KY jellied up.
Yeah.
And our hero walks in and is like, oh my God, because it's this eat the rich sort of large society. It's a whole social commentary. The movie's trying to be a lot smarter than it is, but also have a hairline budget and make itself.
And was this Rob?
This was 89. I'm going to jump into it real quick just to kind of be the guy in the chair. I don't necessarily know who did.
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily one of
it
the
wasn't
special
his, but
effects
he
that we're
obviously
talking
had seen the thing and went,
Yeah.
I can do that, but just cover it in KY jelly and make it hornier. It was not. Pretty much all of the creatures are covered in KY jelly. A shout out to KY jelly. Conan also covered in KY jelly in certain
Alien.
scenes. Aliens, KY jelly.
Yeah.
KY jelly lifting up the team when in doubt.
No, the monster reveal was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish they didn't show the alien crash at the beginning until later. I kind of wanted is this an alien? Is this creature from the underground? Like what there would be more time spent on me thinking, what is it?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's necessarily needed because I spent most of my time thinking, who is it?
Who is it? Yeah, it's not what is it, but who is it? And that because you don't really, it doesn't necessarily have a shape, right? It's a cell organism that just keeps moving.
It's weird that they talk about a lot of the science of this creature and how it functions, and yet I still don't understand how it works.
Right.
But also, I don't feel like it cheaped out. I don't feel like it was lazy or cheap. I feel like, it explains it and explains why it does the things it does. But also, I feel fulfilled with the answer, but also, I still don't understand it.
Absolutely. So, before we get in the plot, we're going to take a quick little ad break.
Good morning. I'm Wilfred Brimley, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about diabetes. Actually, about diabetes and diabetes. Now, I'm not perfect, and I've done things I shouldn't do. For instance, I had an unquenchable thirst for my best friend and partner, Dick Richards, all through the night, and he explained things to me in a language that I understood. Kind of loosen up. Kind of relax about the whole thing. It's not a bad idea once in a while. And I think the most important thing he said to me was, obey these simple rules and do these simple things. I promise you, you'll feel better. Diabetes. Have a good day.
The Thing. Antarctica. Our opening shot isn't even that. It's just black. And the sign itself looks like it's laser cut or burned out to shine a blue. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, jump in.
The way they did that effect, it's all practical. They put a bunch of smoke into a fish tank that was backlit. And then they put a garbage bag that with like the cutouts of the thing. And then they lit the garbage bag on fire. So when you see like the fire creep up and it melt away, that's just the black garbage bag.
So they have like a black screen.
I didn't know that, and that's really cool.
Wait, so they have like a black screen and then a garbage bag behind it. So the black screen causes like the blackness with a cutout of the thing, and then there's a garbage bag behind it. And then they light up the garbage bag, and as it burns up, that's how you can see the
and there's a blue
letters.
light shining
and then all the smoke and the blue light is just a fish tank.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So it's like they trapped the smoke in the garbage bag, put it in the fish tank.
Yeah.
And then as it burns, all of it just rushes out.
Yeah, so it kind of preludes.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I really like
it
that.
preludes the movie.
Yeah.
Huh.
There are
shit.
Wild.
There are some times when there are
shit.
intros that are done so cleverly and so interesting, so basic that you struggle to find the right answer other than like, I never thought of it that
How
way.
would we do it?
That's so simple yet ingenious.
How would we do it?
HBO.
I don't know how to do it.
The HBO is practical too.
Yeah, the letters are mirrors.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the HBO logo, the letters are mirrors, and then they turn the TV on and they film the letters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Did you know? If we're going this fucking topic,
Welcome to Raised by Spoilers, folks. The podcast within a podcast. The intro.
if some of you've probably seen it, I think it's either Windows 10 or Windows 11. The Windows symbol on your desktop that comes by default, which is like the 4 windows
Yep.
with like the light shining through, that is also practical effect.
Really?
Cool.
All of their desktops are legitimate, physically made. All
Cool.
of them that they put out. And they usually take pictures of all the different stuff. But that's one that no one believes is
Yeah.
real. So it kind of just
Wow.
reminded me of that.
Did you know the Windows screensaver for Windows 95 is actually practical as well? It's a
one?
man running through a maze trying to get out of your computer. It's a little man. He's running for his life, and
Yeah.
he's still in that maze.
There's someone still with a
There's-
95,
there's
Windows 95, and he's
still
still until the
trapped.
last Windows
Right.
95 is running.
It won't be
Are the
unplugged,
toast-
and
no,
it
no,
won't.
but are the toaster fish real too?
No, unfortunately, the toaster fish are
That was
not
my
real.
favorite part of the
PETA stepped
aquarium
in and had to kind of shut
The
that shit
pipes
down.
are. We saw that in the
The
Mario
pipes
movie.
Are, yeah,
Pipes are
100%.
real,
I wish
and-
those were in
yeah.
the Mario movie. Like the original one that we did. I wish there was just this whole sequence of just pipe hell. Pipe hell. Bob Hopkins throwing up. Louis, at some point, you're following the throw up. You're throwing Bob Hopkins. You're throwing John
Luigi,
Leguizamo.
I threw up in the,
Oh,
I threw up in the
God.
pipe, and it's following us in the pipe.
Awful.
So beginning of the movie.
The beginning of the movie, we find ourselves in
The screensavers. Love 'em.
Antarctica. Actually, Alaska, but Antarctica.
Yeah.
A dog running for its life. Swedes.
No.
Or
Space.
Yeah, this is the scene that I absolutely
no,
hate.
give me the space.
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 There it is.
Space.
Space, everyone. Space. We see an alien flying saucer. Classic pie pans kind of glued together, like with holes punched through it as light shines, as it's just crashing to Earth. And then we get the Thing logo. But for the most part, we have gotten the dog running. The Swedes, realistically the Norwegians.
Norwegian.
The Norwegians.
They keep calling them the Swedes.
the Swedes.
I do want
That's
to
the
point
joke
out
of the movie as
in
well.
this scene during like the setup of all of it, they've just got the beat line going. The boom, boom,
Boom,
boom, boom.
Yeah,
The
like a
heartbeat almost.
The
Yeah.
heartbeat.
But it's a bass line.
Yeah, it's
like,
a baseline
ooh.
heartbeat, and it's just tracking empty snow,
Yeah.
just tracking cliffs. Boom, 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 boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, boom. It's like, oh my god!
Well, you kind of get your you get your general sense of like they are in the middle of nowhere.
yeah,
Like absolute nowhere. There is no help. You don't walk. You have to helicopter. You have to get into like you don't even snowmobile. You'll
Yeah.
get frostbite and die, or your bike will die out, or the gas will freeze at that point, kind of thing.
yeah.
You are so remote. And we have just this intense shot of this helicopter chasing a dog through to Outpost 31. Swedes land, chaos and fires. They're shooting at this dog. They're missing it. And we finally get our shots of these characters. And already off the bat, they kind of fucking hate each other. They have been up there for a matter of weeks. I don't necessarily know how long, but that's a different time. And it is awful. You're getting that shot of cabin fever already.
Yeah.
None
Well,
of these
they're
guys like
starting
each
to
other.
get
None of
really
these guys
bored.
think.
I
they're
struggle
bored
to
out of
think
their
that they
minds.
hate each other. I think it's a level of they either have
They're done playing cards. They're done playing board games. They're done playing this. They don't want to.
yeah.
They're
These
bored.
are people that have to these are people that have to live in the same house together all day. Every day.
Yeah.
It's not that they hate each other for hate each other's sake. It's that they've been around each other
For too
for
long.
far too long.
Too long.
Well, especially, I think it's Palmer, the guy in like the vest. He just seems like the mechanic. Like he just seems like he's like done with everybody.
He's just pissed.
He's like the attitude guy.
Well, that's why you end up getting, who was it, Clark, who ends up like, I'm going to go hang with the dogs.
Yeah, I'm done. They don't
Clark
talk.
Can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one that took pity on the dog the most. Where he's like, because they switched from rifles to like rocket launchers.
Well, they're
Grenades.
throwing grenades or
Grenades,
dynamite,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
they're blasting the ice.
They're trying to destroy this dog at all cost, which they're yelling because they eventually crash land, and the one person dies, unfortunately, like the Norwegian's like partner, and he's just he's on like a suicide mission trying to get this dog, and he's yelling in Norwegian at them saying, "It's not a dog, you idiots. It just looks like a dog."
Which, to be clear, there are no subtitles. So
No.
unless you
No.
speak Norwegian or
Yeah.
whatever Norwegians speak, you do not know what he's saying. He's just blah 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 yap 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 yap.
And
And
they're
you're
just
like, I don't know what
this
he's saying.
crazy guy running at them, and then I think it's the main leader guy. What is his name?
Vance
Anyway.
Norris,
No, it's not Vance. It's the
Gary,
Yeah, Gary.
Gary.
Shoots him
yeah.
from inside, so he's not even like aware, and they're like,
Well,
"No, what
Gary's
are you
just like
doing?"
a sheriff the entire
He looks
time,
like a
and
cop.
he's just the base manager.
Yeah.
He's the manager, and he's like, "Oh, there's this like crazy guy running at us with a gun." Boom.
Yeah.
So that there goes their only hope.
He's
of
the only one who
trying to figure
always
it out.
carries a gun on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to necessarily go through scene by scene as much as we're going to just kind of move through the movie
Oh, yeah.
and kind of hyper focus
Sure.
on some of the creature effects, the changes, and then the ending.
Yep.
Realistically.
Yeah.
We highly recommend everybody go watch this movie. It's The Thing. It's a classic. It's a banger. We all kind of are glowing reviews. We're smiling right now even talking about this thing.
Yeah.
We loved it so much. So the dogs are brought in. There is a checklist of things that should
The dog
happen,
survived. The dog
and
they were
they don't.
chasing.
Oh, the
dog
dog
survives.
was super happy to be saved. He's licking everyone's
Yeah.
faces. He's just happy to be there. He's a happy
Right.
pup.
What's interesting to me, though, is the dog doesn't make any noise. Dog never barks.
Yeah.
Dog never
Which is a
acts like a
husky.
dog. No.
Which
Or a
to me
husky.
doesn't make
No.
much sense. It definitely
Because the other dogs, when we see the other dogs, they are dogs.
They're
barking.
barking.
They're barking. They're
But
making dog noises.
I
and
don't.
stuff.
I find that weird because obviously the thing is able to communicate as a human when
Right.
it's in human form.
Right.
So you'd think it would be able to communicate as a dog when
Right.
it's in dog form.
Right.
So, but it doesn't. I don't know if that was necessarily because the dog couldn't or wouldn't. I think it's just smarter.
Yeah.
And therefore it just was like, well, I'm going to communicate with you in the better ways.
Right. Jet.
Or it's hard to get a dog to bark forcibly without with humans around.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Maybe not. Jet, the dog actor.
Jed.
Jed. I apologize to Jed. Jed's been dead for a long time. I'm sorry.
Jed is dead.
Jed is dead.
Probably.
But Jed, the bestest of boys.
He
we
was
kind of
really-
kept
I don't
making-
know. He
we
might be
kept-
the worstest
We
of
know
boys.
bestest of boys, worst of boys. But we kind of kept back sitting there and going like, fuck, this dog's showing so much emotion. It like creeps around corners and looks and is super skittish.
It is
And like,
such a well-trained.
Well, they
this
leave it-
animal is acting its ass off in this movie.
They
in
leave
the
it to
scenes
like
that it's
roam,
in.
and they're kind of introduced. What I
Yeah.
found interesting is they
All of the shots, the dog is killing
introduced in the first part. They show off like some of the rooms in the hallways via showing the dog going between them.
Yeah.
So you see, characters interacting, but
Yeah.
you also see the dog kind of going in between. And dog would peek around a corner,
Getting the layout.
peek another one, getting the layout.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting because we got to see more of the base as the dog got to witness more of the base.
Well, you
Yeah.
see also on how they did it practical.
Yeah.
Like they built the base.
Yes.
And you're moving through these corridors. And we even made the reference of the spaceship, Nostromo, for
Yes.
aliens. As like when you have these running steady cam shots through these hallways and stuff, you feel the claustrophobicness. You feel that anything could come through. The thing could come out of an air vent or anything like that.
Yeah, there's
and you
enough
also,
pipes in the ceiling, and there's enough things in corners.
You also get the sense of like these metal walls are cold.
Yeah,
It's cold in there. Everyone's in long johns and layers upon layers as the structure itself is just shaking. It's a shed in the middle of the Arctic.
yeah, right. And right out in the middle, there's winds hitting it right off the bat. No, I do. That dog, you said it acted its ass off as it like went and looked at every corner and like checked it and then kind
Right.
of came through. Whoever controls that dog, fantastic job.
Yeah.
One of the best acting
Dog
dogs I've
handlers.
seen.
Yeah. For the most part, we then meet our cast and crew. We get our Arctic scientists and surveyors, our geologists and meteorologists, and our biologists, and they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. There's a lot of talk of, should we go? There's no radio signals. We can't radio the base from where these Swedes had come from. We need to go check this out. So they all pile in before a storm, and the weather is getting worse and worse. So they all pile in the helicopter, a select few. and they fly out even through a snowstorm to go all the way out to find
What is technically the beginning of a snowstorm that's building.
which is building.
They basically like, hey, this snowstorm is building and it's going to last a while.
Right.
So we need to go now.
We need to go right now to figure out what the hell is happening at the other base.
Yeah.
In which case they show up and the other base is completely trashed.
Yes.
Place is burnt to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for survivors. We get gory details and the aftermath of what had happened. Moving through, there is evidence and other documentation found, and then we get this huge icy coffin in the back room. This massive icy coffin. They fly back to the base, in which case I believe that's when they start decoding stuff, and we get more of the cabin fever and more of the claustrophobia, and everyone kind of they had picked up tapes
in the body.
Well, this was when, because the dog had been roaming, and
Right.
we got a scene where the dog got someone in the shadows.
Yes.
And what I did discover afterwards, because we've had a bit of time since we watched this, I have to admit that.
This is our second recording of the thing.
They specifically, so that actor that played the shadow had no similar features as any of the other characters.
Yeah.
Specifically had different features, so that you didn't know who it was. It had like curly hair, but a thick neck. So it kind of matched two different characters.
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell who it was. They specifically did that to,
Vance Norris.
mess with you. He was the first.
Yeah, it's Vance,
Yeah.
the guy in the sweater.
But they kept it vague at the time.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that the first time you see the beast, the creature,
Yeah.
which is when they come back and they meet with the dogs, is not the first time the creature takes over other creatures like the dogs. So it's already loose on the base.
It's already been loose. So it has been a couple of days at this point because they
Well-
still come back and then they decipher the tapes and everything
Yeah.
to then go and find the spaceship crash and everything else. And then they go back and they finally say, hey, why the fuck is that dog not in the pen?
I think
How many
to
days
be
has it been out in the
fair,
pen?
I think we can assume at least one full day had passed because it was an hour there, hour back from the base, and then having to go. Yeah, so probably over the course of 2 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie couldn't have taken place in more than 3 days.
Apparently
Yeah.
there's days in between.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't
There's-
like. I don't like that reading.
I know.
To me,
it's
it's
all
like
supposed to be
3-ish
hell
days.
happens in one night, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a lot for one night as well. The
So I figured if you had multiple days, the thing would have gotten everyone.
Yeah, that's just it. The scientists themselves decode and go through the evidence and tapes from the Swedish outpost and go out to find what they had discovered, which is the alien crash site, which we
Yeah.
see in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, I love that VHS.
It is so
footage.
cool.
It's so
It's
ritualistic,
so
eh?
cool.
With like
Yeah.
the guys with the post
Yeah.
around a circle. It almost felt like a summoning circle, pentagram, or
Yeah.
It's Cthulian.
It's
It is
Cthulian,
Cthulian.
yeah.
It's the city under the ice. It's the what is this and what is this frozen thing?
I loved that scene. It was VHS
Yeah.
with static and everything. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
beautifully made.
It reminds me even like the AMC show called The Terror, which is about British explorers who try to navigate all the way up to the Arctic.
Oh, okay.
And they inevitably get stuck.
In the 1800s.
And you're just slowly watching everything go terribly.
Oh, that's
And they kind of survey out because
that
they got
actually kind of sounds like fun.
It's really good. It's really good. Everybody from Game of Thrones that couldn't get work is on the show. It's fucking
One thing I
fantastic.
wanted to point out, because this will be the first time we bring it up, is the prequel, the 2011, The Thing.
Yes.
Never has that scene.
No,
The fuck?
It does not have that scene. It does not have the scene.
Oh, yeah.
So, the Swedish base in 2002?
No, it's like 2011.
2011?
I think so.
The second thing?
Prequel.
Yeah, 2011.
Thing 2.
2011.
Thing 2 is the prequel
Yeah.
with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. We all love her.
She's married to
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Oh,
Yeah, good for them. Both in
good
Star
for
Wars.
what?
Yeah, she plays Hera.
Yeah,
and Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
She plays who?
Hera Sabine. Or not Hera Sabine. Hera Syndulla.
From one of the newer stuff?
Yeah, like Rebels and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
that
okay.
makes
But
sense.
she's in Star Wars.
Okay, good for her.
Ramona Flowers.
I know who that. I know who she is.
All right.
I just know
So
in
she's an
Star Wars.
actress. She's in a movie. She was in
Okay.
Death Proof. She was
Yeah.
a cheerleader.
I heard she was in like a little cult one. Something about like Scott Pilgrim versus his
something
mini
or
small
something.
town.
Yeah, a
Something
lot of that.
like that. Like Toronto.
So, Thing 2, or Things 2, or Things the Electric Boogaloo, the sequel, Not necessarily great, but definitely worth a watch if you're a Things fan. Originally, the movie was done entirely practical. The studio had stepped in and producers had stepped in, and reviewing footage said, we fucking hate it. Let's redo all of the practical effects with digital because 3D movies were the
Terrible.
thing, and we can charge more money to get people in that theater. In which case, the director and half the crew had walked off set saying, like, fuck this, I'm never doing this movie again, and I'll never work with these people ever again. There is footage and behind the scenes stuff of all of the practical effects because they had grown up watching these movies and loving them. The studio pushing the 3D movie cinema experience of fake, poorly CGI'd blood shot at the screen hinders the film and actually makes it unavoidably awkward to watch.
And because it was 3D generated monsters, they showed it more often because they could afford to. And that also ruins the whole
there
thing.
was so many shots of it.
Yes.
This was supposed to be like, hey, let's one-up Carpenter with these incredible effects.
Yeah.
And the thing, too, Electric Boogaloo, on paper, works because we follow the other base and we see the aftermath and how it all goes to shit and more of the spaceship because they don't necessarily have that scene as much as they do go in the ship.
Yeah.
They do go in the ship in the movie. We will not be covering things to the Electric Boogaloo, but if you find it on Roku or Prime or anything, it is worth a watch. Maybe not necessarily a buy.
Yeah.
It's definitely, if it's on a streaming service, check it out if you're a Thing fan, but it's fine. It's just a lot of studio meddling away from the director's original vision.
Yeah.
And when you see stuff like the stills and the shots from this movie, god damn, it would have been amazing, but it definitely would have looked like a movie made in the 80s, but later on in the 80s.
Yeah, for sure. No,
Back
I agree.
to
But
the Swedish chefs and the spaceship beneath the ice. We get this general sense of scales. This beautiful.
was that a matte painting?
Is a matte painting. There's a few matte paintings in this movie, and that was one of them.
I just realized you went through that whole segment calling them Swedish.
Yeah.
Yep. The Norwegian.
Yeah.
The Norwegian team. European.
Fucking love that joke.
Scandinavian scientists.
What a great thing that they just keep doing throughout the movie.
Keep changing it. Yeah. It is a fun. It's not. The problem is it's the thing. It's a practical effects gore fest.
Yeah.
With some heavy-handed paranoia and some great loose storytelling and plot. And they just butcher it with CGI and fucking 3D. It's so
If
bad.
we ever want to watch
so
it,
mad
we'll watch
about
it later. We'll have a different podcast on it.
Yeah, we'll do like a hate, well, not a hate watch, but we'll do like the
Hate
thing in
watch.
30 minutes or things to Electric Boogaloo in like a 30-minute episode of like grumble, grumble,
I hate life. Get off my lawn.
grumble of what it could be.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just interesting enough because if you look at The Things 2 and what they did with Evil Dead, the remake, the second one, it's just wildly different for what you can see for like, hey, we're going to take the original and kind of twist it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just
for sure.
disappointing. Back to the spaceship. We get back in the helicopter and go back because we found some sort of creature in the ice and it is horrible and it is contorted and looks like
Double head, double arms.
the entirety of the Norwegian base, and they are melted together and on fire.
Yeah.
Or not on fire, they're melted and burned and charred. And Gary orders an autopsy to see like what the hell this thing is. Because guess what? There's money in those hills, folks. There's a Nobel Peace Prize on our table. We need to figure out what this is, excavate it, document it, and we'll split a Nobel Peace Prize, which is usually, I think it's $1 million. So it's always been roughly, I think a Nobel Peace Prize has always been you win $1 million and you get the Nobel Prize.
Okay. Needs to be more than that, but okay.
It might, I don't know if it was.
Okay.
I think it was just $1 million.
All right.
But for the most part, they're all like, "Fuck, okay, well, let's excavate it. We're gonna get paid more to win that because we found an alien or whatever this creature is than it is to actually do our job." So there's sort of hesitation, but there isn't really any hesitation as they hack this creature apart, and there's pieces of it everywhere now.
I love this is the part where
This is where we get to the dogs.
well, it's just that during the scene, it's also the interesting scene where I think it's the first time Blair, who I think is the doctor, who does one of the major. Oh, this was the moment where he takes the pen and puts it to his lips after touching something.
I didn't even. I know they're wearing gloves. They're wearing.
And he's like, "Oh, we shouldn't touch it because blah blah," and then touches it right to his lips.
Well, he
like an
doesn't
idiot.
know at that point because they hadn't taken the sample and like put it on the computer where it showed it eating the cells and taking over yet.
But still,
so comedic though is you seeing this creature and this beautifully horrific practical effect mountain of gore. and it's the head is contorted and stretched apart. It's like almost like conjoined identical twins at this point. And Blair is cutting him open and going, well, there's just a normal heart. There's a normal liver. There's a normal kidney. There's normal intestines. Looks pretty normal to me.
Well,
and then
like,
you just
no, it's
go back
human.
on the shot and it's steaming.
No, because
it's
he's
still
confused.
warming up. And you're like, ugh.
Well, he's confused because like this thing, by all means, as far as internally, is human.
Yeah,
Even though
the
the
organ
rest
makeup
of it is like ripping apart itself, like cell by cell, trying to like it was like mid transformation.
Yeah, I really liked the reveal because they didn't really show you the full creature when it was out in the snow,
Right.
And then they had everyone sort of had it in a bag, and they just everyone sort of unpeeled it, and it was just
Yeah.
an overshot,
The steam that
the
comes
steam
off
coming
of
off,
it.
and we just had like this overshot of all of them at a table.
Yeah.
And they just unwrapped it for us, so we got a full view of it before they started to zoom into like the deep gore.
Yeah.
which is great.
In which case, we jump a little bit in the movie. Clark is told, or not Clark,
Yeah, Clark.
Clark?
Yep.
Clark is told, get your fucking dog in the kennel.
Why is
Clark
the
is
dog
told-
out? It's been so quiet, no one's noticed it.
Right. The dog has been so
It
quiet,
has a
no one's
whole
noticed.
thing mapped out. It's met everybody. It knows.
Right.
Because now there's 2. Yeah.
There is 2. There are 2 things. The dog goes to the panel, and we get one of the grossest shots. Stan Wilson puts it together.
Do you know how they got the sound?
Give it to me.
So I just read this. I didn't know this before. So how the dog is yowling and like just terrifying.
Vomiting out its skull.
So they got that sound of all like the dog yowling and that like, terrifying sound bit. He collected all the dogs in his neighborhood, put him in his house, like the sound director, walked around in a dark trench coat, slowly taping up all the windows, and the dogs were just freaking out. It doesn't say how many dogs, but all the dogs in the neighborhood.
What the fuck?
So he scared the shit out of these dogs. Yeah. Your face.
I love it. I love
So,
this movie. I
and
love
just-
this movie. I love this movie.
Slowly.
How'd you get that sound? I tortured animals. What?
He did.
By
He
doing what?
traumatized
I never
a
touched
house
them.
full
He
of
never
dogs.
touched them. He didn't do
No,
anything.
he walked around in a big trench coat and just slowly started taping up all the windows in black.
So that was a minor movie all in and of itself.
Yeah, man.
It's like,
Well,
can I-
foliage,
oh, do you
right?
mind if
Sound
I
design is
just wanna
so
get some-
wild.
Can you? Okay, knock knock. Oh, can I borrow your dog? We're just working on this movie. I just want to get some barking. Okay, yeah, go ahead. The dog comes back, not the
It's
same.
the same speech. Hey, can I borrow your dog? I just want to get some barking. And he's got like 8 dogs on a leash. Kind of thing. None of them
It
like
doesn't
each other.
say how many. It just
Hi, I'd
says-
like to start a dog walking service
yeah.
for one day.
One day only. Oh my god.
Yeah, that is what happened.
So, to throw it back,
Oh, that was Stan Winston.
Okay, so maybe he was famous enough that
he's
he could get
famous
people
enough
to
be
give him a
yeah,
dog.
Sure, why not? We get a scene that's almost been replicated by like Stranger Things. We get the flower dog head. The skull pops out. The dogs start freaking out. They start chewing on the fences. And we get really the first attack on film, on screen.
Yeah.
The
I
first
love-
attack on screen.
I love the buildup where they send the thing dog
Mm-hmm.
in, and there's all these dogs around
They're
it,
growling.
and they're all looking at it, going, "You're not one of us."
Well, 'cause
You're
the
not a
dog
dog.
just sits and
it just
stares at the
sits.
wall.
It just sits and waits because it's waiting for the human to
Yep.
fuck off.
And
it-
Clark's like,
and all the other dogs are going kind of side eyeing it, like, "What the fuck are you? You're not one of us."
yeah, they can smell it.
And they can smell it, they can sense it, whatever is different about it. And all of a sudden, the human walks away. It stands up, and all the other dogs are just
Instant spaghetti monster. Instant spaghetti monster.
yeah.
Just blood and everything.
and the
There's
dogs are
visceral-
scared shitless.
The dogs are freaking out. It's spraying like
great
acid. So they're
Yeah.
a corrosive creature where it can spray acid for some
Yeah.
reason. We don't necessarily get another acid spray on
Never
camera,
again.
but it's horrifying. This thing can spray acid, and the dogs are howling and screaming. And then everyone runs back in, being like, "Holy shit!" This creature, you see the dog's skull drop out of it. Its face blossoms like a flower, and everything is covered in blood, KY jelly, and acidic whatever substances. The dogs are then brought in, in which case Clark
Start shotgunning
McCready
it.
now gets told to go get the flamethrower.
Well, they
Or
start trying to
Childs is-
shotgun it. It's not working.
Right, and then they start shooting the other dogs,
Yeah.
and the bullets are just not
Yeah.
absorbed, but they're going into this creature, and this thing is massive. It is, yeah, it's just spaghetti monster. It's a water fountain of blood with dog skulls.
Just a
It's
mound,
awful.
a mound of organs.
Yeah, they finally torch it,
Yeah.
and they realize fire is the answer to killing this thing.
'Cause I think they found that out in like the notes from from
Yeah.
Norwegians that like fire is the only thing.
Fire's the only thing
Which
that
is why
kills.
they burned the
Yeah.
other
Because fire
place.
destroys down to like the cellular level,
Yeah.
whereas if you try to shoot it, it's just going to adapt the bullet into its system.
Which I love the fact that there was not a how do we kill this monster moment. They told you right off the beginning
Right.
how the weakness and how to kill it. So it immediately took that fact, immediately made it so that the monster itself wasn't what's fearful. It's who was the monster.
Right.
Because the moment the monster revealed itself, it was dead.
Yeah.
They knew exactly. They knew we've got the kryptonite. Superman, we're not afraid
We
of
only
Superman
have so
anymore.
much fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have so much fuel. Dr. Blair, Mr. Diabetes himself, at this point now is doing science,
Science work.
mad science work, and discovers that this creature looks like us and can sound like us. It walks like an animal. It talks like an animal.
Well, he kind of explains that it's like almost, it's not a individual creature.
Cells.
Every cell is the creature.
It's multiple and multiple.
And it's a
cells.
hive mindy like creature. So it's like an amalgam of a bunch of small creatures.
Right.
He never quite explains that though. Although we kind of
We
figured
see it
that
on
out.
we see it on the computer.
Yeah.
He's punching in results on like the mother computer and trying to like run scenarios where like, hey, if this gets out, it'll take over. And I think what was it 3 weeks or 3 years or something?
Yeah, it was like 27,000 hours or something, which is like 3 years. The entire planet would be switched.
What sounds like days.
But you see it later
3
on
years.
when he drops the blood sample, and the blood is just trying to get back together.
I love that.
So it's
So good.
it's not so much connected to the other things; it's just connected to its being, whatever
Yeah.
form it is in.
Well, yeah, each cell is its own creature when it's separated, but it can join in to create a
Yeah.
bigger creature. And
In
but
which case it feels safer.
in which case it feels safer as
Yeah.
as a mound. So then like it can segregate and then come back and reform, but any one molecule can take over another small molecule. It goes down all the way down to the base cell.
Which is interesting because I'm not even going to save this. We're going to jump in right here from another segue topic. I'm sorry, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Is it a weapon or is it an alien?
it's an alien.
It's an alien.
I don't know if it's a Prometheus situation
From
or
the-
like it's an
from
alien
the,
or it's a thing, right?
From Who Goes There, it has backstory because I think there's a chapter in there as its own like perspective, and it's an alien race from like wherever, but it's meant to be like an ambassador.
Yeah.
So it was sent out to go and find other places to
This
just
is-
kind of take over.
This creature is almost what you get if you take ants,
Mm-hmm.
give it the camouflage ability of, an octopus, but make it molecule, a single-celled organism.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
So it's meant to go and change. It's like a scout.
It's
basically.
conquering, yeah.
By ambassador, it doesn't mean go there, shake hands, do economic deals. It means take them over.
Right.
Because the ship in the beginning, it was kind of like an alien situation where they picked up a distress signal, and it took over the ship, and that the captain of that ship or whatever was trying to crash it to kill it, and it got stuck in the ice for 10,000.
Wait, how do we know this?
It's in the original.
Oh.
If you read a book,
Yeah, it's in the book.
Audible
Or-
sponsor us.
I would love that.
So,
I read a lot of
they,
Audible.
they crashed. What was that? 100,000 years ago, in the ice, and then it just
Oh,
stayed
so that's the
there.
story part that we don't get in this movie.
Yeah,
It's
like,
a short story. It's like a 4-hour.
I'm kind of happier without knowing it.
It's like Prometheus explaining where the xenomorph came from.
yeah, okay.
It's literally Ridley
But
Scott went, "Oh, the thing was
written-
good. Let's just do that, but alien."
Yeah, but written in the 1930s. So this is more of a true adaptation to the story as opposed to the movie from the 50s where they changed a bunch of stuff.
See, I kind of prefer the concept of not knowing its origin, not knowing its
Well,
secret.
sorry.
Well,
Because
sorry,
that's
you're
the
raised by
Cthulhu part of
spoilers.
it.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I know.
But the only reason that John...
That's the name.
That's the name you
And
picked.
they convinced John Carpenter because he didn't want to do like a remake of the 50s.
Right.
But then when they told him, no, we're doing it to Who Goes There, he's like, oh, fuck yeah.
Well, the 50s,
Yeah,
it's
that
just
makes
like
sense.
a body. It's a Frankenstein monster in the
Yeah,
ice.
and
Yeah,
and
I
like
saw
a hand
clips.
gets cut off, and there's great moments, and it is still scary because it comes crashing through a wall, and they got
Yeah.
to set it on fire.
Yeah.
And there's a love interest where the original book never had any women in it, hence why this has no women except for the chess computer.
We're going all over the place, but they also didn't want to necessarily remake Aliens,
Yeah.
where there's one woman and a bunch of men, and it's blue collar, and they're scientists, and they're doing science stuff out, and there's an alien.
Yes.
Right. They didn't want to necessarily remake Aliens with this.
Yeah.
Fun fact: the thing from from Another World is clipped into the Malcolm in the Middle intro.
Is that what that is?
That's what that is.
That's funny.
Yeah. I don't know why,
Oh.
but that's why it's there.
Why not?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So
Cool.
the dog, they burn it. It tries to escape. They all panic. Wilfram Brimley, Dr. Diabetes himself is like, we gotta fucking crack. We can't let this thing leave. We have to find it. We have to kill it. So he kind of slowly devolves into madness without consolidating everyone. He kind of freaks out, smashes all the computers, smashes all the radios that would call for help, begins to
Destroy
take
the
apart the
helicopter.
helicopter, take parts and destroy. I think it's called the rotocopter, or not the rotocopter. The what is the
treaded
vehicle,
I don't know what that-
military
The
snow.
land tread vehicle.
There's like a tread
Basically
vehicle.
any-
We'll call it the tread.
Yeah, any
Yeah.
means
That's
that
cool.
they could escape.
Yeah.
Which
Any means for that.
I'll be honest, there's a lot of discussion online where they talked about how he infected at them. I said absolutely not.
No, he's trying to do the most.
He's trying to do the most
sciencey
logical, like
thing he can.
this thing he learned. He figured out what's going on, figured out what happened to the Norwegians. Said, okay, we're not going to let what happened to the Norwegians where this thing
Yeah.
got out.
Yep.
And I think he did the right thing, and because if he was the thing, he wouldn't be destroying that. He wants to get out,
Right.
So no, it doesn't make any sense. But so he's mad, he's gone crazy. But I mean, technically he has, but he's gone crazy for the greater good.
I think it's paranoia is what grips him, and then the reality of the situation
Yeah,
really speeds it up and goes, well, I can't just walk in and shoot everyone
yeah,
because I can't do that as a person, but I can take an axe to a radio.
Yes.
I can burn the gas. I can do whatever I can physically, and they'll just deal with me until we get this situation and we figure out afterwards.
yeah.
It is letting all the life rafts go and trying to set the boat on fire
Yep.
before it gets to dock.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
And he's freaking out, and that's when we get the scene where he's starting to shoot and freak the fuck out, and they're all like, we got to stop him, and they go to lock him up.
Well, I think, he really went into madness because I think the thing had infected somebody else, even though they killed the dog,
Yeah.
and then they didn't realize that the body was still alive.
Well, he had done computer math and realized
Yeah.
that there's a 75% chance that there was someone else infected. And he went, fuck that.
Yep.
That's too high.
So that caused panic because it's like, wait, no, we killed the thing. How is this other person getting attacked right now?
Yeah. They thought they were done with it.
Do we think the madness is the parasite in him?
No.
I don't think he was infected
he's-
at that point.
Okay.
No, because no one else who got infected during the moment, went mad. I think he literally just did the right thing.
Yeah.
And he was going mad because he's up in the Arctic and he's basically committing suicide.
Yeah.
And he's not only
Yeah.
committing suicide, he's committing homicide by killing all these other people too. But he's doing it for the common good. And he knows that if he didn't do it quickly and efficiently, then they would catch him. And at that point, he's just got like, I need to finish my work. Fuck off. Shoot. Like, get the fuck
Yeah.
away from me. I got to
Yeah.
finish this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think he was infected at all. I think it had nothing to do with that. I think, he was a bit loony, like in the way that he did it. But I think he made a human decision, it wasn't an alien.
Because he was still acting rationally. Because what I found interesting was watching the movie again, the people that are infected completely do a 180 on their personality.
They do.
Yeah. So like
They do.
how people would usually be like loud mouth and like, oh, blah, blah, blah. They go quiet. So he was acting out as a person would. And then later on he gets quiet.
Yeah.
You get
and
that
just eerie calm, right?
I'm okay, I'm okay
kinda-
now.
great. The noose
I'm okay
hanging.
now. Let me
Yeah.
in. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Fucking way.
Can I come out now?
It's so it can copy, but it tends to just kind of go quiet in order not to be noticed, I guess.
Well, it's not a lot of run-on sentences as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's just yes, no,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very minimal
Mm.
within the English language. Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. We didn't even talk about Kurt Russell yet,
No.
No, we haven't got it.
but we're gonna get into Kurt Russell in a couple minutes. Kurt Russell's a badass in this movie. He's so good looking too. Peak
He
of,
is.
not even the peak of his career. Like I would argue, Big Trouble Little Chinatown was when he's probably in the best shape. But right now, Kurt Russell. God,
Okay,
Coming
as
off
two
his
guys
Russell.
who fancy our beards, I
Kurt
think he get a
Russell
great
in this
beard.
movie.
Oh,
As
his
two guys who
hair.
fancy
His
beards,
hair
he
is
had a great-
perfectly
Yeah.
feathered.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Coming off the 70s, just
So, Childs, McCready, and what is his name? Clark. Nope, Gary. Constantly clashing.
Yeah.
In which case, Gary hands over the gun. McCready takes over and says, "I'm in charge now," or no one's in charge now.
Well, Gary tried to give it to someone else,
Yeah.
and that guy's like, "I'm not a leader. I
Right.
don't want it." And everyone kind of looked at McCreary and was like, "It's you." And he
It's
went,
you.
"All right,
But
I guess it's
Childs
me."
wants it, so there's tension within that.
Yeah,
room.
but
Yeah.
he didn't want the leadership. It was thrust upon him, which statistically speaking, they do say that the best leaders are those who don't want to be leaders.
Right.
well, Childs wanted it, but they said he was too hot-headed
Yeah.
to do it, and then he got even more mad.
Yeah.
Prove the point.
Proves the point.
Yeah.
Our team divided at this point, doesn't trust any of them. Tired. You get that great line from Kurt Russell. We're all tired and we don't trust each other. Try to develop a test to figure out who is the thing and where the thing is. As they try to lock the base down,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? We all have to stick together. We all like 2x2s kind of thing.
Yeah, there's been some deaths, I think, up to this point.
Well, the guy
Like,
was left in the room with Windows being like, "Oh, I'll be right back," and then that's when they figured out on another like off screen or like he was
Away
reading
from
the
him.
notes at the same time that like, oh,
A
the
dead
thing
corpse
could
is
still be
still-
alive.
Yeah.
So by the time they run out, Windows is like, oh my god, help us! He's already mid
Well, Fletch
transformation.
changes, and you see that the clothes are all torn apart, and
Yeah.
then he creates these.
And then
things.
they torch him,
Yes.
but it's like, hey, who else has gotten it?
Because it was too late. But then I think this is when they went, okay, we need to do the test now, the blood test.
Yeah.
So let's go get the spare blood that we have
Yeah.
to run
Yep.
these tests. And because we can see what blood will interact and what blood will do what. And that's when they realize inside the fridge the blood's been drained out.
Somebody
or slashed.
sabotaged it.
Somebody
But there's a lot of
sabotaged it.
keys being passed to who has the key and who had it last.
There's
and who
actually
locked the
only
doors.
one moment that's key. That's key in it, which is there's a sound cue. So when I forget, because again, these are the early characters that die that you don't realize.
I think it's
Windows.
Palmer.
Well, it's Windows is the guy who runs away,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right? Palmer is the one who gets taken by at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So Windows, you hear when he sees the creature wrapping up Palmer, you hear the clang of keys hitting the
Oh,
ground.
shit. Okay.
It's a subtle
Yeah,
sound thing. I missed it at the time. This
Yeah.
is one of those things I went after going
Watch
back
it
and
again.
watch it again.
Watch it again.
You realize these little cues.
Yeah.
And so the keys, even though the keys were only said to be in two different people's hands, it actually dropped on the floor.
Yeah.
Therefore, it could have been in anyone's hand.
Yeah.
Oh, so anybody could have picked him up. Okay.
Yes.
Right. To say, all the keys were here. It was never me. Interesting. We get our second or third creature reveal of Fletch, the guy in the orange vest, running out on fire. You get these like crab hands, this sort of elongated fingers within fingers within fingers as he yells out in this hollow, just deep, guttural, inward scream. And then they just torture him. And you see these, it's just the creature starts to like elongate
Yeah.
and they burn him. And that's when everybody's like, all right, enough. We got to figure out who's who and
It's
what's going
happening
on. kind of
so rapidly that they're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
It could be anybody at this point.
So this is where I think story-wise for us in the film, it is all in one night. I think in the story script-wise, it is like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. But they cut all that like chunks in
and
time.
then when the
passes.
action starts, it's
Right.
only like a
because
night.
we are just building up to the storm.
Yeah. Okay.
Like Windows is supposed to have these lines of like, hey, 18 hours and the storm's coming, 6 hours, like the countdown.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, of time passing. But because it's so hectic that obviously those lines either just forgetting or it got completely
And think
cut
about
out of
it.
the movie.
Blair probably did save the world in what he did.
100%.
Because there's no way that, Clark or one of the other people infected would have just gotten in the helicopter and flown off.
Right.
Well, it would have needed to
Before the storm
infect
kicked in.
somebody that knew how to fly.
True, which is McCreary.
Yeah.
It needed McCready in order to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right to the blood test, or are we jumping to the Vance
Well, at this
or
point-
Norris having the heart attack?
This was Norris having the heart attack because
Norris having the heart
they
attack.
basically suspected McCready.
Yep.
Because he had to run away. They put Blair in a shack.
Yep.
Because he was all nutsy. And at some point during all of this, is that like it's hard
because it happens so
so
rapid.
quickly.
They locked up the doctor after they found him stealing the helicopter and like crashing the helicopter.
Yeah.
So they put him down for that, being like, you are out of your mind. You need to go in timeout for a few days.
Right. They realize that the creature, when it morphs into you and takes you over, it bursts out of your clothing.
Yeah.
So they found McCready's
Jacket.
jumper or jacket.
And they found Long John's.
And they
in the
found
kitchen.
Long John's that had its name ripped off. So because of the jacket, they thought it was McCready. So he had to run out and get away. And there was, issues ensued among the ones that were there that were left behind.
Yeah.
And McCready basically comes back with guns and a grenade and a makeshift grenade with TNT. And is like, we're going to solve this problem. I've got the rifle. I've got the
He has
and
a flare to the dynamite, being like, nobody's getting me. We're going to figure this out or I'm blowing us all up right now.
Yeah. And that's when, I forget who it was, dies with the heart attack.
Vance.
Vance dies, the guy in the sweater, the first infected.
The first infected. That's when he dies to the heart attack. Well, because I remember that scene because I thought he hit his head off a shelf, but really he died of a heart attack.
They try to revive Vance, and we get that horrible stomach open up, jaws, arms ripped off, blood everywhere, screams. They torch it, and then we get the practical shot of the spider creature on the ceiling screaming, and then the head elongate as well.
Yeah.
As the body just kind of rips apart. McFarlane made an action figure of those.
Oh my God.
And they're awful. They are awful looking.
Awful or awful? Like
awful and awful.
Like, is it because McFarlane's known for good action figures?
Oh yeah.
That's one of the things he's good at. And good figurines. Is it a well-made figurine, but obviously it looks terrifying and awful? Because that's a huge distinction.
We have the original monster, and we have.
Let's see what this thing. So look these up. Good job.
Okay, we'll
good
do
job.
that another time.
Good job. Yeah, you have to look up these models for McFarlane. I'm
so
sure you can
this
just
is when we
Google
get
them.
that iconic line because they torch the spider.
Oh, that looks wicked.
Gross.
That I would not want that in my house
No.
at all.
Yeah, because that's the chest.
Yeah, that's the chest,
And then it bursts up. and
That's
then
the
there's
first one.
There's the end creature, the monster with all everything.
Oh, it is. That's the end one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yep.
Gross.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
They
It's great
torch. They torch the spider. Oh no, they.
Well, this is the
torch-
great scene where they basically start torching it, and the head peels itself off
without noticing.
Without noticing.
And then that's when you get the iconic line where I think it's one of the guys turns around being like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" And
Yeah.
then they just torch it, and that's it.
Well, this is the great one where the head rights itself, and it's got like using its tongue to
Yeah.
like kind of like hook
Pull,
itself away,
yeah.
pull itself
it's
away,
So creepy.
and then it rights itself and like grows stocky eyes and
Like
like,
a
spider
like a
legs.
snail.
Yeah, and then it just starts crawling away. I do love the scene where you've got all of them in like the pose, the triangle pose, and then you just see subtly in the background this head
It's
going
skittering away.
and then you're like, oh, it's gonna get away, and then suddenly one of the characters look behind and does that, like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
And then they all look back at it, and there's a moment where the creature looks at them, and they look at the creature like, motherfucker.
Well, because you think it's going to right itself, and it doesn't. It just sprouts crab legs and then eye stalks, and it's horrifying.
The funny thing about that
Then they
is-
just burn it, though. The thing is they get rid of it. It doesn't run away. There isn't a fear of, oh, it's out there anymore. It dies then and there.
Right then.
So the funny thing about that is the I forget the character because they all look the same. One of the
A bunch of white dudes with
I know,
beards in the
yeah.
70s? No.
the one that turns around and says it is I'm pretty sure, infect, assimilated. So it totally was like, hey,
I think it was
get
Windows.
that thing, right? So it totally just ratted out the other thing in order for it to survive.
Yeah, and look less.
Yeah, so they're
suspicious.
not friends with each other. They only want them to.
Well, they're almost like
survive.
different colonies.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So they don't
It's its own thing.
care as long as the species survives somehow. They'll do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
So including throw them under the bus.
Totally.
Self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For self-preservation.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember last. And during the movie, I'm like, I know it's like one of the scenes is they go against each other, and I couldn't remember the scene, but I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Yeah. So there is a discussion I know I need to tee off for you,
Tee it off. Let's have it.
which is the story of the arms.
The arms.
The guy, the practical
chest
effects for the
jump.
arms. How they do the
Oh,
arms.
yeah.
I'm going to tee
Thank
that one
you.
off for you.
That was all you.
Oh, is it trivia?
The amputee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's give it some trivia.
So when he got his arms stuck in the guy's stomach, and he pulls out and he has no hands,
Yeah.
they actually used an actor that was a double amputee with the mask that looked like the actor's face on him. So you're so looking at the arms, you're not really noticing like, oh, that's blatantly a mask.
Well, it's the back of his head, and then
yeah,
it's
but when
the
he's like
upshot.
this,
yeah, because his face is kind of
Yeah.
like this with the hands
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
it is
So
noticeable.
there's a clear show of
Yeah.
the hands
yeah,
of the
if you know what to
center.
look for, it is noticeable. It is a mask.
Doesn't
but
matter,
Yeah,
it's
so
still
they,
good.
they
I
did
didn't
that
notice it
all-
on watching.
I didn't care.
They did it all practical. Yeah.
That it's a really great idea, and I love that when they peel away the arms, they do a lot of really good like peel shots where when they peel away the arms, it's like the sinew and stuff stretch
Yeah.
and pull away and rip off.
Yeah.
kind of like what they do with the head, but the head is more alien when it does it.
Yeah.
Great little special effects.
Yeah.
I love them.
Strap in. Actually, get tied down right to the couch.
Yeah.
Because Kurt Russell's had enough. At this point, we get the blood test.
The best scene of the entire movie.
Iconic blood test where they are all now about to kill each other because they've already ran into this creature too many times, and it has gotten
Half the
completely
crew
out of
now,
hand.
Yeah.
The classic beaker dish with everyone's blood, and they're scalpeling, cutting.
Oh, and they
way
show
too
you
much.
those
the body
cuts.
horror,
it's the
and it's just
thumb. It's like completely
Oh,
cutting
well,
into the thumb, and it's like, why is that necessary?
And they show you this. They
Yeah.
show
in a
it.
weird way. You kind of get the sense of these are not the scientists. These are the blue collar mechanics. These are the guys that it's like, yep, fucking eggheads up here, right?
Their job is to do the science.
Yeah.
My job is to keep the helicopter running.
Eggheads.
Yeah.
Eggheads. So for the most part, the beaker dishes are filled. I've seen a lot of great thing Halloween parties or Christmas parties where people wear the parkas and stuff, and the Jello shots are in the beaker dishes. They're plastic.
I just had a great Halloween idea for next year.
Yeah, man, it's fun.
No, I just had a great one.
Beautiful.
So at this point, just to before the blood test happened, Clark went to go after McCready with like the scalpel, and he shot him in the head. So
Yeah.
he's laying off to the side, dead,
On the top.
Right, yes.
next to the other.
And
dead
it
guy.
turns out that even though he was panicking and went after
we haven't
McCready,
got
he was human when they
Right.
shot him.
Right.
because
he
they did
wasn't
the
the
blood
thing.
test.
He
Now
wasn't.
go on with the blood test.
That thing. They heat up a needle. Off, or not a needle, piece of
Just a
copper.
piece of wire.
Piece of wire. This is how like
They
strapped for
do
cash
this
there. They
slow
don't care.
scene where everyone's
That's
tied together
from the,
talking, and McCready
that's
is
from
just
the book.
slowly shaving off the coating on the wire.
and using the blowtorch, or not the blowtorch, the flamethrower,
flamethrower and
which
heat
is
it up.
realistically the ice melter,
Yeah.
which is used to just de-ice the tools, the car, or not
Yeah.
the car, the tread. It's to de-ice the tread, and it's to de-ice the helicopter wings.
Yeah.
That's all it's out there for. It's not
Yeah.
it's not meant to be a weapon.
Yeah.
These are just tools, right? I think, what is it? They have a shotgun for, I don't even think there's wolves up in the, I don't know why they have guns.
They might have animals. You never know. Bears.
Yeah.
There's
maybe,
no
may-
polar
polar-
bears
maybe
in the
polar-
Arctic.
Sorry?
There's no polar bears. In
No.
the Antarctic.
Oh, this is the Antarctic,
There's
right?
penguins.
Yeah, well, they got to shoot the penguins.
They got to shoot the penguins.
So the
It's just
copper-
weird that's the other thing where I'm like, why do they have guns?
They're American.
Yes, that is the clean and plot point you've made clear.
So the copper wire is from the original story.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
very
they got
cool.
that from the book.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And they start dabbing it. And one by one,
He's like, oh,
the
you're
tension
clean.
builds and
You're
tension
clean.
builds and
Yeah.
tension
You're
builds.
clean.
And he does himself and he calls them all out for being like, oh, you're all turning on against me. You think I'm this fucking creature? Nothing. And then we're like, okay, who is it? Who is the thing?
I love that they're building up Gary to be the thing.
Because they all don't like Gary. Because Gary's the dick manager.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, we want you to be the thing, Gary. Give us a reason.
Yeah.
It was great. He had his like little partners. Like, okay, you're good. We can still.
Well, Childs was also like, fuck you, untie me.
Right.
Charles like, I'm not fucking playing your game.
We're done.
And then he's like, no, you can sit there.
Right. Tied to the couch. And then it finally explodes.
One of the 3 people tied to the same couch.
I want to say it was Palmer,
Palmer
the mechanic, yeah.
Palmer erupts and starts screaming, and then immediately stands up as his long legs elongate on the couch, out of the floor, off the couch, and the other guys are now
Child's
leaning
like,
upward,
untie me.
leaning, screaming, and this creature continues to freak the fuck out as it elongates and then grabs the ceiling, and then I think they torch it as well.
It
Oh,
bites
no, it
off
cuts.
one of the heads. It like head chomps. I forget
Gary.
who.
Head
Gary.
chomps.
No, it wasn't
Fuchs.
Gary.
Was it Fuchs?
It was
Fuchs
Fuchs.
was
Or
Fuchs was
Windows?
an alien.
It was. See,
Might,
this is
might have
where
been
it
Windows.
gets-
See, this is the problem. These people don't that. Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
It gets one of them tries to shoot it and
Yeah.
it tried to flamethrow and he kind of like froze.
Yeah,
and it kind of
Childs can't shoot, or not Childs, whatever.
McCready,
Niles.
McCready couldn't.
Yes.
His flamethrower was not working.
Yeah.
and then Fuchs panicked and he
Yeah.
froze, and so the head thing kind of came down, just bit his head.
The dog, this jaws of this dog
Yeah.
head just bites his head off.
And then so that they do end up getting that creature runs out of the building, and then that's when they throw the grenades,
They throw
the dynamite or something.
Kurt Russell throws a real dynamite stick,
Yes.
and he misgauges how big the blast is. So during that scene, I knew what to look for, because if you watch him throw it, he gets pushed back against the wall of the set.
I didn't
And,
notice that. But
yeah,
that's
if he
awesome.
was any closer, he would have gotten really hurt. But that was the actual blast. So his reaction is the one that made the movie,
Oh, that's
of
great.
him getting slammed back into the wall.
And then he burns the Fuchs corpse that's in the process of transforming.
It might not have been Fuchs. I don't know.
I don't. The thing is, these people, I don't know how to say it, but
Doesn't
like,
matter.
a lot of times you're like, oh, I didn't know who those characters are, so I didn't care. You know
care.
what? You do care.
You do care.
You don't remember their names,
Yeah.
but you know who they are.
Yeah, you want everybody to be okay by the end of it.
Yeah.
We're not reading the cheat sheet. Like, that has been put away on the screen, so we're just kind of going off of what we remember.
Yeah.
Well, no, because we're very close to the end of the movie now, because we've jumped a couple scenes. But
Yeah.
the only one who hasn't taken a test is Dr. Blair, and
Yes.
he's still locked in the cab.
They have to go get him.
They have to go get him to go to the test.
I do like that there's so much time in between locking him up and now, and so many things that happened.
I want to say it's 2 days that
I-
he's in there.
Maybe.
They bring him food, they bring him booze, they have this
Yeah.
talk, and then Blair's like, it's this person, it's this person.
But
I'm
there's a
telling you who's
level
the
of-
creature.
He's trying now. At that point, he is assimilated.
Yeah, but I
So
do
he's
like the
trying
idea
to
that
get the
there's
heat
this
off him.
sense of we have forgotten. I had forgotten about him. I'm like, okay, well, there's no more thing then. And I think you on the couch were like, have you forgotten about Blair? And I went, fuck. And then it was at that same time that all the characters went, we need to go check out Blair.
Fuck,
And I went,
Blair.
oh, no.
Blair!
So at this point, it's Knowles, McCready,
Childs.
Childs disappears at this point. He goes out or
I don't remember exactly.
Childs
You
is
see
still
him run
with
off
them.
in the distance at night
Childs
somewhere.
leaves, but Childs also makes the line after they try to lock up McCready, saying no one can survive out in that weather.
Yeah.
And Childs does.
Yeah. But this is when they realize Blair's gone.
Yep.
He's escaped, and then they found a
He's
hole.
dug a little hole.
He's dug a hole.
He's dug a little hole.
And they go down there, and he's basically building another spaceship.
Well, there's all of the parts from the helicopter and the tractor and the tread
Dread.
and any of the information that he's taken apart out of the computers, which looks like a spaceship. Doesn't know if it's going to fly like a spaceship,
It
but
kinda
he's
looks
trying
like-
to
it
put
looks
it
like the
together.
oval,
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
trying to
the
put it
saucer.
together. At this point, McCready is bringing down barrels and barrels of gas. They're going to blow the place up as they hunt down for Dr. Blair. And Dr. Blair at this point is hunting them.
Well,
as he
throughout
kills-
all of
Yeah.
this, Blair, during the time in which they went out to go find Blair, turned off the breaker.
Yeah.
And so they went to go find the generator. And they're like, how's the generator? He's like, it's gone. He goes, well, how much would it take to fix it? He goes, no, you don't understand.
So
It's gone.
whoever
Yeah.
took
Not
it
here.
out, yeah.
Yeah. And then we get our big confrontation. Blair begins to assimilate with other people.
So who was it? I think it was Gary. I think the final three were Gary.
Yeah.
Was it Carter? Knowles?
Knowles.
Yep.
Knowles and McCready.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it was around this time that Childs went off. He chased someone in the night.
Yep.
And we don't know what
he
happened.
thought his thing was he thought he seen Blair out in the snow, so he went out to go get him.
Got it. That's what he said later? Okay.
Yeah, that's what he says.
So then they go down to the basement, or not the basement, I don't know, somewhere.
They're underneath.
The
They are
base?
underneath in the base.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It
Where
was the
he's
secondary
building the spaceship.
Yeah, they went to. I think they were like under the storage area.
Yeah, it looks like they're like in a underground area, but that was built by the humans, not by the
Yeah,
alien.
it's the sub. It's like
Yeah.
the sub basement kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's where Blair does that great scene with Jerry or Jeff. Gary, God damn it.
Jeff James. Jesus Christ.
Where he just like puts his fingers in the mouth and it has the prosthetics.
Ugh.
It just spreads out.
Oh,
Oh,
it just
beautiful.
keeps spreading.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no. And it just separates the skin from the skull.
Yeah. They don't go. They don't
It
quite as far
separates
all the
the
way
skin from the skull.
from his mouth.
From his mouth.
He peels the skin
Blow
off
up.
of his face.
Blow up a glove. Blow up a rubber glove on your hands. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
The hot air.
Great. It was a great scene.
Yeah.
Great scene.
And then
Great horror effect.
They're looking around. They're trying to find Blair. Knowles just walks off screen.
Well, they're setting up dynamite everywhere. They're like, "Fuck it, we're putting this whole
the
place to the
creature
torch."
explodes
They-
out of the boards.
Yeah, they
And
basically realized if we don't kill this
Yeah.
creature because the power's now gone, they're gonna freeze here. They know their fate is
They're
now.
done.
They're going to freeze.
they're going
here.
to die.
Yeah.
So they went, if we don't, we know that this thing can survive frozen because it survived for what 5,000 years. I think they said, or maybe it was 50,000 years, 5,000 years. I don't know. And they went, okay, well, if we don't kill this thing before the storm kills us, it will just inevitably be awoken one day
Yeah.
in the future. We'll probably be awoken when the rescuers
When they
come
come to find out what the hell happened to the
Yeah.
base.
Exactly.
Right.
So
In a
they are like,
couple
we need
months.
to kill this thing before the storm
And-
hits, before we die.
And the
Right.
thing knows it's smart enough that it just wants to hide and go to sleep.
Yeah, it realized it can't get out because the helicopter's all done. So it's like, well, my job is to just
Hibernate.
survive and survive long enough to hibernate. I need to outlast them, and they need to kill me first. So it's
Yeah.
kind of weird because it's classic horror is the opposite. Where it's like I need to outlast the villain, I need to just survive the villain. Whereas this one, it's no, the villain needs to survive the heroes.
Yep.
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Like,
So they
I
just-
Yep.
win
Yep.
either way.
Yep.
Ha ha
Yep.
ha.
We
Yeah,
get
so-
a great creature and a classic greatest hits of all of the creatures that we've already seen. A little bit of dog, a little bit of people, a little bit of other baby dog thing kind of climbing out of its belly.
It's
It-
pretty much everything it's ever transformed into. And that puppet, it was only on for a short amount of time because they
It was
did.
expensive.
It is very expensive, and they had done other stop motion takes with it, but it didn't look good. 'Cause-
Not enough KY.
yeah.
None of KY.
Also, it's 50 people,
Ooh.
50 puppeteers and engineers controlling that thing at the end.
How many was
The
Jabba?
big totem.
Jabba, I think, was 6.
Okay.
I think it was 2 people in the head. It was 1 person in the body. And then there was a guy doing the tails, or the tail.
So
and the
there's one guy doing
arms.
one arm and one head.
Yeah.
And like the mouth. And then there's probably one guy doing an arm and a
two in the
tail,
head,
I
two
thought.
in the head, because the eyes are so big.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I think it was 6
so
people.
not
maybe
near.
5.
So this is way because that was considered one of the big puppets of the time
Yeah.
was Jabba.
Well, it's
this
all
is
electronic.
yeah, it's a lot of electronic, but this was even way more. This was 50 people.
Well, think of like I know we had just done Gremlins. Like each like Gremlins puppet needed like 1 or 2 people just doing remote controls and like watching. So you can imagine this thing is what like over 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a big totem of flesh.
Totem of flesh.
Ugh.
Flesh totem.
Ladies and gentlemen, she
played
said
that
the
game.
word of the day,
Flesh
totem of flesh.
Yeah, it was only on for like you said, like when we watched it, you're like, that's it.
Yeah, like that was it was the shortest like boss battle.
Yeah.
Right. That probably close to that I've ever seen.
But
and I was okay with
the
this.
anticipation, like you said, it was crawling through the boards. It was making a lot of noise. It like burst out of the floor.
I think the thing too, though, is how many. We're gonna get into this in a second. Trust me, I've got a good question for you all. Is it wants to be defeated? Because if Childs is the thing, then the story's over.
No, because each individual part wants to save itself.
True.
It wants to be the last one.
Or it assumes it is the last one. So it is constantly being like...
No, I feel like it knows because, remember, when the blood went, it felt pain. Right? So it somehow...
But none of the other things reacted.
They're their own entity.
That's true.
As an
So it
individual.
might not know... It might know who is the thing, or it might not know who is the thing.
It might not be a truly mental connection, like
Right.
hive mind, the way I was
It's
thinking.
just
It's only a
separated.
hive within itself,
Right.
within what's connected.
Right.
Because,
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the thing.
So,
And we get the most bleak fucking... Well, almost one of a very nihilistic, very
ambiguous.
bleak, very ambiguous, the classic ending up there with Blade Runner, which is also... I could see walking out of these movies and being like, didn't really get it, didn't really like it, and the ending sucked.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like, what happened?
You don't
Not as bleak as The Fog, not as bleak, or The Mist, I should say. Not as bleak as some other movies, but just the tone it sets and the eeriness you feel and the cold
Yeah.
of these men.
The heat from the explosions and the fires are slowly dying in the background.
As the base burns and burns and burns itself out, and Childs and McCready sit down. These
Well,
guys,
McCready comes out from the dark, from like the void of the snow.
nothing. He
Nowhere.
climbs out from underneath this explosion, and he has this classic bottle of whiskey. This JB.
J&B whiskey. He has the same whiskey bottle, which I didn't really mention like throughout, but the first shot of McCready, you see him, he's drinking out of this whiskey bottle because when he comes out to investigate like what the hell's happening with this like Norwegian crew coming out of nowhere, he pours it into the computer where he's playing chess, and every time he has kind of like every time the whiskey shows up is when he's either being thwarted by the thing or he's getting like a leg up on figuring it out.
Okay.
So the whiskey, and also it's getting like less and less and less throughout the whole movie, where at the end of the movie there's only enough left for like a couple drinks and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like placed very specifically throughout the movie depending on how his gauge on
How
the monster.
successful he is, whether he has the leg, whether he's winning
Yeah.
in that moment.
Because he was about to take a drink of it when when Childs came out of nowhere.
Yeah. There's actually something I wanted to talk about with that whiskey and with the computer.
Let's have it.
I think now's the right time because we were at the end, so
Yeah,
we got
yeah,
the
we
whole
are, yeah,
connection
yeah.
here. So at the start, the first thing we see of McCready is he is playing chess with his computer. And the computer, I didn't notice it. You guys said that the computer cheats to win.
It does an impossible move.
Okay, so it cheats so it does an impossible move, and his reaction to it is just burn the fucking computer. Just say fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the whiskey down the computer and let it short
it
circuit,
out.
and
Yeah.
fizz it out. And I realized that right there is the entire plot of the movie.
Yep.
Right in that
Yep.
center
Yep.
is the entire concept of this
Yeah.
is McCready doing a logical mind game. It's him versus the thing.
Yep.
And the thing represents the AI represents
Yep.
the thing, or the
Yeah.
computer represents the thing. And at the end, he says, "Fuck this game! I'm blowing it all up."
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
He flips the table.
Yeah. And the ideas, I really like the concept because they leave it vague. Did he win or did he lose? Because on one hand, he won because he destroyed the computer, but also he still lost the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of how the movie
how this
ends, which
plays
is
out.
he, in theory, beat the creature, but did he beat the creature?
Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
For what? I mean, Childs and McCready sit there and kind of just laugh at each other. And they say, what are we going to do? And Childs at this point, I want to say, isn't breathing.
There
is no breath?
Breath isn't coming out as much as McCready's, but that could also be because McCready's, the way that the how he is against the background.
Okay, hold on.
And
Is there
he-
no breath, or because I didn't notice this
little.
detail.
Yeah, there's no breath.
Very little.
So very little. So it could just be lighting, or it could just be
yeah.
An effect they're trying to get through, or the heat of the base burning, so there is no breath, or
yeah.
But
that-
McCready, when he talks, it's very. But,
every fucking breath, every word that comes out of McCready's mouth
It's
is
just-
followed by hot
yeah.
air.
the funny
Yeah.
thing is to get that.
Tell
to,
us the funny thing.
There's like two things, but to get the between takes. In certain aspects of the movie, in order to get more of breath coming out, he would take a drag of a cigarette before his line, so that it looks like it's more misty.
Kurt fucking Russell, man. The man is a living Levi's commercial. Are you
Also,
kidding me?
when-
Are you
yeah.
kidding me? America.
Yeah, so he'd take a drag of a cigarette, hold it, and then
before every
let it
take, I like to
out.
take a cig of my Camel.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
actually drank whiskey every day on set.
Yeah, so he would make it look like more steam was coming out, even though it was cigarette smoke. And also, too, when they
Yeah, it
were doing
works.
the shots in the studio in LA in the middle of summer, they had to bring in the truck, so it was like super cold.
They worked in the cold
Yeah.
for all of these
Yeah.
Pretty much
scenes.
all
Well, they
the
were in
indoor
Alaska.
shots. Another theory is because he said we're just gonna wait and see what happens,
Yeah, we're gonna wait and see, Childs. We're just gonna sit here,
but he
and they're both exhausted.
Oh yeah, that's why they're not trying to kill each other, but also, Childs as a character now seeing how he was all movie. If he thought that McCready was the thing, he wouldn't have taken the whiskey and had a drink of it because they know that's how it spreads.
Yeah, given he's a germaphobe, but I also think there's a level of
And that's why that's why McCready just laughs after he takes a drink because he's like, "Oh, I'm fucked. I'm dead anyway."
well, I think there's two things to take into account of this, and one's based on a conversation that happened earlier.
Give me
in the
those
movie.
two things.
So one, I think Childs. You mentioned Childs wouldn't have taken it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's a level of Childs if he was human. There's a level of it doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't
If
matter.
they're both human, they're both
They're
dead.
both human. If they're both human, they're both dead. In which case, I'm going to take a swig.
Yeah.
If McCready is the thing, I'm going to take a swig because I'm also dead.
Right.
Because it's the
Or-
thing, and it's just going to kill me.
I'm
Right.
gonna become a thing anyway.
I'm going to become a thing, or I'm going to die of cold. It doesn't matter at that point,
Right.
whether or not he takes a drink. And Childs, while impulsive, is one of the smart guys, and he's able to realize that.
Yep.
So he probably just went, "Fuck it, I don't care anymore." The other thing to take into account, so that's one.
The other thing, ladies
The
and gentlemen.
other thing is there was a statement made earlier by McCready, which was it finds its defense when we're together because it won't make itself known. If we were by itself with it, it would just destroy us. It would just kill us. It would,
Yeah.
If it was just me and the thing,
it would immediately.
it would just immediately launch and kill me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It would get rid of the charade.
Right.
It would just say, "Fuck it, I'm absorbing
Yeah.
you now." So, in my mind, there's an argument for neither of them are the thing because if it was, then one of them would have just gone.
But also, there's that Cold War America in the 80s, and no one trusts anybody.
Two
Yeah.
more things.
Two
Yeah,
more things.
two more things.
Welcome to one more thing, the podcast within a podcast,
One
the
more
trivia we
thing.
throw back and forth, and the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories as we try to avoid writing the fan fiction.
Which is what's
but
great about this
also
movie.
Scrub the internet for what do you think sort of happened. It is the Blade Runner question near the end of who is and who isn't, but also we'll get to that movie later. Amanda, give us those two more things. Just go for it. You two back and forth run.
So this is contradicting as far as one thing.
I don't want to hear it.
Is he is human and one is he's a thing. Yes.
Childs?
Yeah, Childs. So it is said, I don't know if it's like the book or the movie or special features, but it can't mimic inorganic material. So if you have fillings,
Which was only
or-
stated in the 2011 prequel.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what it was. So if that was true, Childs had an earring. So if he was the thing, it wouldn't have had an earring. But he also came back in a completely different outfit.
Yes.
Because he left in a blue coat, like that blue coat that he's wearing in this photo. And he came back
In a-
with McCready in a gray jacket.
So I think there is a level of combination of lighting that makes that questionable. The other one
Oh, it
was.
was a completely different jacket.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I viewed it as just potentially lighting.
No, it was completely.
This woman's done a lot of research on this movie.
Okay.
but-
The other thing is the earring. Again, that was a rule created in the 2011. I don't know if that existed in the book.
But that's a little convoluted. But with the jacket, it went from being a blue parka with like a tan fur to he came back and it's like almost like a white gray jacket. So
Interesting.
if the thing would have took him, he would have had to go find
Lost
a new
his
coat.
clothes. Yeah, yeah. Oh, interesting.
So that's also like, yeah, the no breathing, him taking a drink. Also, there's a theory that because he was just doing Molotov cocktails, he could have gave him a thing full of gas. And the thing would have known, and that's why he laughed, even though he was about to drink it too. So I don't know if that would have made him commit suicide, but like, there's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
people have had, 40 years?
And still no one's got the answer.
Oh, yeah. I think a few years ago on Twitter, Carpenter put out one of them was the thing, and it just exploded again. So
Because
he
of
knows,
course, he
yeah.
wants people to rewatch the movie. He wants to
Yeah.
make money off of
Oh,
it.
this is all speculation. But
Even though this guy spent, I don't know how many interviews now that I've seen where he's just like, can I get some of these reviewers in a room and I'm just going to beat the fuck out of them?
Yeah, there's no
oh, yeah, 'cause
need.
they,
Beat their
almost,
shit.
they ruined his career almost.
Which for a movie this good pisses me right off. This is one of those things where you see like the Herculean hero, the He-Man, who has to take a bullet to save the world, and he has to have his name dragged through the mud. Even though he is the hero, like no one's allowed to know he's the hero.
Right.
He had to, die a villain in order to save the world. And this is kind of one of those scenarios that it really pisses me off.
Yeah. So the video games, PlayStation and Xbox did The Thing, which was the sequel, leading into what happened afterwards. You play one of the, I want to say the military that goes in, and it kind of plays off of a very 2002 era of Resident Evil. Where you are up in the Arctic and investigating, you were running out of bullets, and you were trying to figure out who is the thing. So you have to talk to people and either send them back to base camp or not.
Yep.
As you run into survivors, and it's very close combat, close corridors, only so much ammunition, and you do come across Outpost 31, where there are two individuals, or there's one individual,
One corpse.
sitting still out there, but they're frozen over to a point where you don't necessarily know who's who,
Who was.
right? Just to linger off that it could be still out there or whatnot. I think obviously with that storyline or that thread of the fan fiction within the video game universe, you have that's your plot. One of them was, so that's why the creature is still out.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
that
somewhere
makes
out
sense.
there, there's a research base who got him, and this is happening, so we need to go in and stop it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing as you piece it together. It was a fun video game, but it was definitely a Resident Evil
Rip-off.
Silent Hill ripoff, but still relatively good. NECA had done action figures. McFarlane has done action figures. Dark Horse did a comic book run
Yeah.
of the movie itself within the story, expanding previous and forward. And there was Mondo had done the board game, which plays a lot like Among Us, the video game. And Carrion by Digital Evolver has moved on. The movie itself has a lasting legacy and continues to inspire directors and filmmakers and even artists or writers within the media.
for sure.
It is a fantastic and long-lasting impression within the history of film. What I'll ask you all, because I think this kind of sums it up, what does this movie hold up?
Yeah.
100%, just the way the effects were, like, because there was nothing digital, it's timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to lay a little bit of love towards the first base, the Swedish base,
Swedes.
Norwegian
Norwegians.
base,
Urban Herbs.
which we learned later in the background. Learned it's the original base, but they blew it up afterwards. It was filmed afterwards,
Right.
So they could blow it up.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, basically it was. I loved the icicles and shit, and like they had the one guy with the blood icicles,
Yeah.
coming down. That entire area was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
It's fun, and that's the thing that bums me out about the things to Electric Boogaloo, is that it's such a weird, like, oh yeah, there's a story here. Yeah, we could do a second one. We don't need to do a second one, but we definitely could cash that cow in, and they fucked it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think it holds up really, really well. I don't think anyone's in question. And the fact that it's not 3D and all that fun jazz honestly allows it to last.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
It's a movie with a gimmick, but it's a good fucking gimmick. It's a fun ride. Which brings us to our podcast within our podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bridge those brows as we rate those eyebrows. You know the segment. You love the segment. Is there any special effect or moment? There's not necessarily a prop, I would say, that kind of stood out. There wasn't the lightsaber or anything like that, but we'll go around the room. Was anything that kind of transformation or any of these scenes that really stuck with you before we land the plane and end the show with our final thoughts and ratings?
I was originally going to say the dog.
Okay.
But I think I've recently changed my mind because the one thing that really sticks out to me
Just give me that one thing.
was I'm not no more other things. Was the Norwegian base, the environmental
The environmental storytelling of what you get.
Yeah, and all the beautiful, the icicles, the way it looked, and
The axe
everything
in the
kind of
door.
shined off, the axe through the door. That entire environment, I think that's a set design, was just beautifully done, and I don't think sets get a lot of love, and I think that one deserves it.
Absolutely. Amanda.
Well, Gary's eyebrows.
Gary's eyebrows, legendary.
You mean the
like
spiders on his head?
5 inches long and so bushy.
Sure.
They
Sure.
stuck out from his face so much.
Sure.
For
Sure.
those eyebrows.
Plot, special effects, or not plot, special effects?
I'd say the dogs, yeah, because it's the first really gory transformation. It kind of sets the tone.
Of what you're in for a ride.
Yeah, where it is like it's not like a slow transformation like the Alien, where like you don't really see it happening. It's like no, it's happening all in your face, real time.
Yeah, they
Things are
show the
just-
monster.
Yeah,
They
right
show
up
the monster,
early.
and they light it well, and it's
Oh
awful.
yeah, and they make sure you see every little
It's
detail,
close up.
and it's like the little like spindlies that come out, and like the dog tongue petals, and like the skulls, and it's like geez, and that's also a dog, and you never want to see a dog get killed on.
Yeah, people
screen.
don't like animal cruelty, and no one
Oh, they shot the dogs.
no one does. They shot the dogs.
They shoot the dogs in this movie.
I want to add to that just real quick,
Yeah.
and let me just interject. One more thing. I think the creature itself, because it changes every time you see it, it's unsettling, but also you don't get used to seeing it. Like the xenomorph,
Yeah.
you're used to seeing the xenomorph. Michael Myers is in the white mask.
Yeah.
Other aliens, you're kind of like the Predator is just the Predator. After it's kind of revealed, you're like, oh, it's cool. It's scary of
Yeah.
what it can do. But this thing creature, because it just keeps coming
You never
out
know
as
what's
a
gonna look
different
like.
thing, it's horrifying.
it's so
Alien.
personalized to what it's doing at the time. Like
Yeah.
it takes on the characteristics of whatever it's devouring, but it also has the characteristics of everything else it has devoured.
Yeah.
Which means that because this is brought up in the original story, but it obviously never got a bird. Because
Huh.
if it would have caught a bird that could fly,
Yeah, it would have just flown.
it would have just gone. And
There could be a
infected
thing penguin out there somewhere.
Awful.
a flying penguin, the only flying penguin.
Awful.
But yeah, that's the
Awful.
big thing. What if it got a bird?
Yeah, you're right. That would have.
What if it got a bird?
But yeah, the dogs are always like classic.
I want to say it's the most for me. The eyebrows, the plot, or the special effect is for me that stands out the most in this movie, and it's one that is the tip of the iceberg, and what John Carpenter is so good with is a light bulb.
Okay.
A light bulb. A light bulb is my favorite special effect in this movie.
All right. Talk to me.
And that is when all of the guys are running around and they're after Niles or they're after the doctor before they lock him up. And McCready goes, "We have to investigate my shack." And they go, "Why? You're not gonna get us alone. We don't trust you." And McCready goes, "Because the last time I was in there, I shut the light off." And you just pan. There's not even a pan. It's just the wide shot of black of the night, his shack, and the light on. And you're like, "Oh, that's a trap." Or is it a trap? Or
Oh,
what
I
the
didn't
fuck is
get
going
that.
on?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
That's when they get to that's when they separate.
Yeah, which
That's
is
when
then,
everybody separates, right?
which is afterwards. That's why they
But
start to
that's
suspect
the
him.
one light is on, and
so
that is
that's the lure to
that's
break
the
up.
lure. But
To
him
split
being
them.
like, I
Oh,
didn't leave the fucking light on,
shoot.
so something is going on.
Yeah. Oh.
And I wasn't in there, so the door was locked and the light
And
was
he's
never
the kind of
left
guy
on.
that like isn't going to make that mistake.
Right. The door was locked and the light was never on.
Nice.
So something is happening. And that, besides all the special effects, besides the
Yeah.
characters, besides just the concept of the story, that is the true, like, wait a minute, what? Like, that is the horror.
Yeah.
The simple, like,
The
the simple
horror at its core.
at its core, I didn't leave the light on.
Yeah.
What is that?
Something's not right.
Something's not right. And that is the dread and the paranoia that you feel in this movie.
I love it.
Quick quote, Bill Hader loves this movie. Quentin Tarantino calls this one of the best science fiction movies or best horror movies ever made, left up there with one of the greats as one of the best films for the paranoia and suspense that it builds within this film, even though it's flopped.
Yeah.
Carpenter would never go again to work in Hollywood, and once again, died in the process. Amanda, let's end this episode.
Okay.
Give me your final thoughts and ratings.
Well, yeah, like once again, just from the beginning, and like we've only said good things about this.
We've only said good things.
other than the characters being a little one noted, but like it's a great movie. It definitely holds up. I could watch this like every year.
Yeah. I don't know if you do it every year. I think you, like you said, 5 years or
Like
so,
every
you got to
couple
let it
years,
ferment.
You kind of forget about it.
You got to let it ferment.
I had mentioned before the score is one of the things that really make it because it does a really good job with building that suspense. And Ennio, it's actually funny because this is a movie where John Carpenter didn't write his own music, which is rare because usually he writes his own score.
He writes all of his stuff.
To really get that. So he showed Ennio what to do, and this is an Italian composer that usually does like spaghetti westerns. So he does a lot of like the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, those types of movies, which he scored this movie perfectly.
Yeah.
Like you said, with the bum in the beginning and just really drawing up that tension. Just a quick fact in my thing here. They used the unused parts of the soundtrack they didn't get to put in this movie on The Hateful Eight, which is also really similar.
Yeah.
To this. Quentin Tarantino, he ended up winning like a Grammy for, where this, they said the soundtrack wasn't good, and he got like a what was it, the Raspberry Award, which
The
is like
Razzies?
yeah. So he got a Razzie for this, but he won like an Academy Award for the unused portions of this music in a movie with Quentin Tarantino, which is kind of funny.
Which is what, The Hateful Eight?
Hateful Eight.
Which is also about men trapped in a cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
He just
and they don't trust each
recycled
other.
it, yeah. So that was interesting, but I don't know. I continue to love this. The cast, like, you know, the actors have really good chemistry together. Like, everyone worked really well. It was
It's believable.
Really believable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I forgot I was watching a movie at one point because of this, because they interacted so realistically with each other.
Yeah.
Nobody broke character, even when he blew himself up with a dynamite.
Yeah.
They just went with it.
Yeah,
It's
the
like
editing is good. There is no like...
Yeah, they had a
And
lot of
there's-
fun with it. You could tell.
Yeah,
there's
for
almost as well like a small segment of like their own language of like short form stuff,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they've been on this base, and you wouldn't call the thing by the like you wouldn't call the tread by its full. Go get the blah 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 blah. It would
The,
just be like
the
go,
MF
Yeah.
hand me the screwdriver.
Kawasaki,
Which scam? Yeah, right. Like
the
it's just-
Kawasaki
yeah.
Tread 5000.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
but yeah, can't get enough of this movie. I would rate it pretty high. I would say about it's almost perfect. So I give it a 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
You're going into the year with a 9.
Yep. Starting off the year high. It's a near perfect movie that you can let anybody watch nowadays even, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like when was this movie made? It's so old, but it's so classic.
It really is, and it's a shocker that not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah.
Or it's overlooked or forgotten.
Or
about.
just not watched,
Not
even though you
watched
know
about.
it's amazing.
I know,
It's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Adam, did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it?
I love this movie.
Beautiful.
This is probably one of my favorite movies we've brought to this table.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a few other ones that I've rated really high.
We're going to find directors, right? Just like producers, like we've had in the past with like Conan and everything. But like Carpenter is one of those directors where like a
hopeful.
Quentin Tarantino or a Wes Anderson,
hopeful.
where you start to see what he's doing and where he's building out and stuff. And it just kind of, some are better than others,
Sure.
but that's all selective and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
I'm hopeful, but I really enjoyed this movie.
Awesome.
I thought this version of terror, this version of fear, was what really made it work.
Okay.
Again, I've talked about I don't like slashers. This was not that. This was very much a 120 from a normal horror movie that I'm used to seeing, which is probably why I enjoyed it. That being said, I think I've talked about all my favorite parts of it, all the logic of how he dealt with the computer. You know, I love foreshadowing. I love discussion where they had all this little intricacies of foreshadowing. They kind of subtly told the story in the first 5 minutes of what was going to happen in a different way. I love that. For the clever writing, the great special effects, and honestly, a movie that still feels just as good today and not too slow, not too fast, just right.
it is slow though.
Oh, it's
until it's not.
I find that it's slow and then it builds up and then slows down again.
Yeah.
And I think that's just right. And I think I'm stuck between like an 8 or an 8.5.
Really?
Eight or an 8.5. Yeah, I struggle with that one. I'm not quite sure. I'll go 8, I guess, but it's like an 8.25. But that's I fucking hate that statement. But I'll fuck it, an 8.
Really?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
You gave it a 9 last time.
No, I think I gave it an 8.
You gave it a 9 last time. I gave it an 8.9. You gave it a 9. You two both agreed on a hard 9.
No. I don't
You
agree.
gave this movie a 9.
Okay, that's all. The
have
only reason
no
you can't.
evidence
The
of
only
it,
reason
though.
you can't prove that is
I will
because there's
pull
no
it up.
audio.
I will pull it up by the end of it.
And we'll have to lip
I
read?
go, you're out of your mind.
We'll have to lip
and
read?
then we go back and forth about Alien, and you go, it's a 9.
No,
It's that good.
I think what I recall is I gave it an 8.5, and that was because I don't believe there's a 10, and I don't believe this is a 9 level of a near perfect movie. So I gave it 8.5. Mostly the 0.5 was only a loss.
This guy's regurgitating
Because of
my
the-
review
yeah,
to him because he shot it way too high the last time.
Because of the character.
Yeah.
Because of the character, I lose track of some of the characters, and I lose track of a few things here and there, and I think that's why it's not a perfect score. But like I said, I'm stuck somewhere between 8 and 8.5. It's hard for me to give it an exact one, but I'm just throwing out at an 8 for whatever reason.
Beautiful. I'll go because originally when we first did this, I did an 8.9 because I didn't want to give it a flat 9, but I'll meet you in the middle and I'll say 8. I'll say 8.5 as well.
Yeah.
I love this movie. It's a fantastic movie. It's one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time. It's a great horror movie. It's a great suspense movie. I am happy, much like Alien, I am so happy this has gone on to influence people. And
Yeah.
I'm happy with the stuff we got because of this movie.
Yes.
Now, in the time we live, I definitely feel like this is one of those films that, because it is so good, it's like The Godfather. You don't watch it every year. You kind of let it ferment. You go back, you think
Forget about it a bit.
forget about certain stuff, but it definitely is worth multiple watches. Because don't watch a video, just don't watch someone on YouTube or Mojo, or even listen to us explain everything. Go through and rewatch it and pick up the little shit we even missed.
Yeah.
Because there's weird quirks. People smoke, people don't smoke, different things happen, people are passing cigarettes around. There is so much cross-contamination that it's so easy to miss within this film.
This is a germaphobe's nightmare.
This is a germaphobe's nightmare, and it's so good. Carpenter, one of my favorite directors of all time. I really got into him in high school. I am so pleased to keep going with some of his movies just because he never makes the same movie twice. And he likes to use sometimes the same actors and sometimes actors you'd think, why is this guy even in the movie? I mean, They Live has Roddy Piper and Keith David in it, and Piper is phenomenal in the movie. But yeah, this is a solid. I would honestly, I want to meet Amanda in the middle, but I think I do have some issues with it. In a weird sort of way, I wish it was slower. I wish they had even more money, because I do want this is a movie that needs another 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to explain the ending, but for us to kind of give a shit and see. This movie needs 15 to 20 minutes of what a day in the life of what actually they're doing up there. And that way we go, oh my God, it's so boring. Oh my God, this is so boring. And it is the alarm clock. Kurt Russell gets up, slams the alarm clock, and then starts his day. And we meet everybody and we see what they're doing. But realistically to the story, none of that shit matters. And Carpenter also is trying to say, none of that shit matters. You're there for the monster. And the plot is this story here and what they're doing up against the thing. Mm-hmm. I think a modern day film, something done by A24 or any of those people, would drag it out a little too long. And then we'd all sit here and go, it's great, but the movie's about 15 minutes too long. Yeah. And there's too many people.
There's a careful balance of.
There's that careful balance.
We didn't quite get enough of the actors, but also there's such an argument for too much.
Right. Because if we would have got busy work, if we would have just got shots of them day-to-day life, we would all sat there and went,
when's this movie gonna start?
Does this fucking movie start, right? When does this and then the dog wouldn't have been so
impactful and so
impactful and so like, no, it's already at your front door.
Yeah.
And a helicopter crashed and shit is hitting the fan. And oh no,
I agree.
It's a weird mix. And that's where I think it is the give or take, right? You want another 5 minutes to get to know these people, but you already give a shit. And we don't necessarily need to know everybody's name because it's not a TV show. It's a movie. But yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Raised by Spoilers. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing your lovely faces again. You can find us all over the internet at RBS Pod. You can do us a favor and like, share, and subscribe. Recommend us. Give us a thumbs up. Give us some 5-star reviews on the Amazon or any of the other places you get your podcasts. And share with your friends. I am Geek Movie House.
Nintendo Geek.
Love you and Adam.
And as always, be kind and rewind.